22-year-old construction worker James Cavanaugh for the unpaid balance on a car he totaled.
Ms. LeChuga, the defendant was a former boyfriend of yours. In addition to just being a boyfriend, you had a car that was titled in both of your names. He paid for the insurance on the car, but it was your car. And there was a car loan on the car, is that right?
Right.
He got into an accident and totaled the car. So far, is that right?
Yes.
The insurance company totaled the car and gave you a check, but the check did not cover the car loan, and there is still about $1,800 left that you owe the loan company on the car. Is that what the case is about?
Yes.
Mr. Cavanaugh, when were you in this accident, sir?
It was May 28th, 2001.
Tell me about the accident.
Well, we were coming back from the airport and...
Stop playing with papers. Look at me.
Okay. We were coming back from the airport from St. Louis.
Who's we? The two of you?
The two of us, yes. She was in the passenger seat. We were going through an intersection, and the light was green. She swore the light was green at one time. Went through the intersection in another car. We collided. No witnesses stopped on our behalf. The other car had a witness stop, said they had a green light, so I was at fault for the accident because I had no witnesses. She was in the car.
Maybe you were just at fault in the accident because you were at fault.
No, the light was green. I'm sorry, if the light was green, I'm going through.
Did you hit them or did they hit you?
We hit each other.
How is that?
Because the two corners hit together. I mean, I didn't see them. They just ran, they went right through the light and we collided. I never saw the car coming through the intersection because I was halfway through the intersection before, you know, we even hit.
So the insurance company found that you were at fault. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the highway patrol put me at fault. Now, I guess the insurance goes by that or if they go by their own. I don't know.
Whatever. Those people who were responsible for finding who's at fault found you at fault?
Yes.
Okay. And when had you purchased this car?
We had purchased it in last September.
When you say we purchased it, you purchased it together?
He was the primary person on the car, and I was the co-signer, but it was supposed to be the other way around, and they messed it up.
I don't care what is it now? Who owes the $1,800?
Right now, I'm the primary person.
Why is that?
Because we switched the names back.
When?
Back in June.
After the accident?
Yes.
Why?
Because I was the one making the payments on it, and I wanted to have credit for it.
At the time that this accident occurred, that he caused, he was the primary on the car.
Right.
And on the loan. Is that right?
Right.
Who was making payments prior to May 28th?
I was.
Why were you making the payments?
Because it was my car.
Well, then why was he ever the primary?
Because the loan people were stupid and messed it up. They put my name wrong. They put the paperwork wrong. When I signed the papers, I asked them, this puts me as co-signer, because I've never signed for a car before, co-signed or nothing. So I believed the people we bought the car from. I said, so I'm on as co-signer. They said yes. So we signed the papers. Come to find out later on, they put me as primary and her as co-signer. So when we found that out, since she was making the payments, it was her car, we switched the names.
You mean the payments for a car that no longer existed?
What's that?
In June, after the accident, the car no longer existed.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right.
How much did they give you for this car?
About $7,000.
$7,311.
And how much was owing on the car?
That much. I don't have the exact amount on that because...
How come you have a lot of paperwork?
I have all the paperwork I need for my case. I mean, I don't have the exact amount left on the car. They wouldn't give me the information.
Let me see the information that you have, madam.
Okay.
I want to see the loan that was taken out, how much the payout was, all that good stuff.
I have a copy of the title right here. It has the price on it. I did have that.
How many cars did you have when you were living together?
I had mine and had hers.
When did the two of you part ways?
In July.
Why?
He broke up with me because he was seeing somebody else.
I see the last payment that you made to Ford Credit was $100.85. Is that right?
Right.
Your Honor, what month was that? Because I've had to cover 1 month of that because she quit paying on it and didn't tell me. So they called me 2 days before they were going to send it to collections agency and informed me that she was 3 months behind.
I did tell you.
So you made the payment?
Yes, I had to make the payment.
Good. It was your accident. Now.
She was right there in the passenger side, Your Honor. She could have very well been driving. She gave me permission to drive the car, so, you know, my insurance paid out all that on it. I mean, if I was to let her...
Is this your defense? Now
if I was to let her go drive my truck and she was to wreck it, it would be my responsibility to pay for it, not hers. I mean, isn't that right? Because it is my truck and my insurance. I mean, unless I'm wrong, I don't know.
So that's your defense?
My defense is I've paid out more on this car than I think I should have anyway. I mean, yeah, my insurance covered my wreck, my part of the wreck, but I paid for her insurance the whole time she had that car, so.
Where were you coming or going from that you were coming from the airport?
We were coming from St. Louis because she had gone to Texas.
Yes.
Vacation to see her mom.
Okay, so when you went to pick her up at the airport, you took her car.
Yes.
How come you didn't take your truck?
Because her car had more room and we could put her stuff in the trunk. I had permission to take her car.
No, I didn't ask for permission. I just said, how come you didn't take your truck?
Because her car has more room. I have an S10.
More room than a truck?
I have an S10. The cab is a lot smaller than the front seats of a car. It's just more comfortable in a car.
Okay.
Because it's
now,
a 2.5
when you went out
hour
for
drive.
dinner, which car did you take?
What's that?
What word didn't you understand, sir? When the two of you
Well,
were
I'm
together,
sorry, I was
stop
talking,
speaking.
You interrupted me.
When you went out for dinner, when you were living together, whose car did you take?
Either or.
Most of the time, which car did you take?
There wasn't a most of the time. I mean, I
You went
guess
out
most
to
of the
a
time we
movie.
took my truck.
You did?
I guess, yes.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
doubt
You
it?
want to know why? Women don't ride in a truck if they have a car. By choice. If they have no choice, they'll ride in a truck. But if they have a choice, they'll ride in a sedan. That's common sense, isn't it, Bert?
I'm not a woman, but yeah.
But you know women.
My wife prefers a car.
Right. Now, what kind of work do you do?
I work construction.
So you use your truck for your business, but going out on a Saturday night, you take the car.
Not true.
Not
But,
true.
okay.
Of course it's true. Sir, bottom line is, Mr. Kavanaugh, you not only were driving this car, with or without her permission, of course it was with her permission that you were driving the car, but you were also primarily responsible on the loan at the time of the accident. I don't care who messed up. You bought this car in September of 2000. If you're old enough to have a car and a truck and a job, then you're old enough to look at paperwork and see whether it's wrong, and you don't switch it after the accident. So at the time of the accident, you were A, at fault, B, primary on the loan.
As co-signers should have been.
No.
Okay, both of our names are right here. On this title, both of our names are under owner.
Right.
It doesn't say who's co-signer and who's not. When I saw that, and when I asked them who is the co-signer, they said me. Now,
But it turns out that it wasn't.
doesn't seem to be very clear to me.
It turns out, I'm not here to go over their contracts. As it turns out, you were primary. Right?
Unknowingly, yes.
Not my fault. You certainly knowingly one thing. You knowingly were involved in an accident which the police attributed to you as the one at fault. So you owe the remainder on this bill. Why should she be saddled with it? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,798.69. Goodbye.
Thank
Parties
you,
are
Your Honor.
excused. You may step out.
I don't think it was right. I mean, I've paid out more than enough on this. I don't think I should pay off anymore.
I'm just glad this is all over with and I don't have to deal with him anymore.
My insurance covered more than what the car was worth anyway.
He was responsible.
We've been arguing about it ever since the wreck.
It's been an ongoing thing.
Don't co-sign on anybody.
Choose better.
Mrs. Thompson, step forward, please.
37-year-old trucker John Staley says during a visit with his sister, 38-year-old customer service rep Terry Thompson, she attacked him with a hammer. John says Terry lied to police and had him arrested for domestic violence.
Mr. Staley, the defendant is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, she filed a false police report causing you to be arrested, spending a day in jail. Those charges were subsequently dismissed, but you want her to pay for your lost wages.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? When did this incident occur that caused you to be arrested?
August 9th,
And where did it take place?
at the defendant's home of residence.
What were you doing there?
On August 9th, I came home to my home, and I found my niece, my oldest niece, on the phone. I
Your
asked
oldest
her-
niece is your daughter?
Yes.
Go ahead.
She was calling people on the phone, and she advised me that her car had broken down. She didn't have any money on her, and she needed help getting the car towed to get the car fixed. And she asked for my assistance. At the point, I didn't really have any money, but as we were discussing this, the tow truck showed up at my residence. So I told Lori to go with the tow truck driver to go get the car, have the vehicle towed, and I would go to the bank, withdraw money to pay for the towing. And Lori needed to go back to her mother's house, so I took Lori back to her mother's house, and that's what I was doing there.
And what happened when you got there?
I walked with Lori upstairs to the apartment. I stayed in the hallway.
Your Honor.
Don't put your hand up yet. You'll have an opportunity to tell me your side of the story.
I stayed in the hallway while Lori went in and got her things, And there was a discussion that Terry made about that I owed her an apology over an incident that took place 2 years ago.
Have you spoken to your sister since?
I haven't spoken to my sister since February or March of this year.
But you were outside in the hallway.
I was in the hallway of the apartment.
She came out to the hallway?
Yes, she did.
To tell you
She
that
wanted an apology, and she made some statements, and I told her she needed to get her facts straight on that issue. But I wasn't going to apologize for this incident. It's 2 years old, and there was no need, and I felt I was in the right of that incident.
Okay.
And she told me to leave. And I tried telling her that I needed to take Lori back to get her car. And she said, no, you're not. She demanded that I leave, and if I didn't leave, she was going to go in, get a hammer, and she was going to beat me with the hammer. And I said, fine. So I turned around. I started walking down the steps. I was on the second step when my sister tried shoving me down the stairs. As she was pushing for me from behind, I turned around with my arm. I raised my arm in defense, and at the same time, I tried to maintain my balance on the stairwell.
Had she gotten the hammer?
Not at that point. She got hysterical and everything. She started screaming out loud, and she ran back into her apartment. And I started walking down the stairs, and I was at the first turnaround. There's 3 flights of stairs, and there's a turnaround at one point, and that's when she emerged with the hammer from the apartment.
Did she come down the stairs to
Yes,
where
she
you
did.
were?
I started running down the stairs. I was at the bottom of the stairs when we came together, and she went to swing the hammer, and I put my hands up in a high blocking fashion, and the hammer caught my right forearm, and then I returned a kick to Terry, kicking her away from me, and this bought me a couple seconds to get out the door. Terry then chased me out the door, and I turned and I tossed my keys at Terry. I missed Terry, and my keys went into the bushes on the east side of the doorwell. And then she continued to swing the hammer, and she started yelling to her neighbors, "Call 911! I'm being assaulted!" as she was swinging the hammer.
Did you report this to the police?
Yes, I did.
When?
What happened was Lori came out, and I ended up taking Lori back to her car.
When did you report this to the police?
After I dropped my niece off at her car, I went straight to the sheriff's department.
And what happened when you got there?
They interviewed me, and I told them about the apology and
Told them the story.
told them
right?
the story. They said they had to talk to Terry about the hammer because she didn't originally tell them about the hammer. And they come back and they said she admitted to using the hammer and that I admitted to kicking her. And as far as they were concerned, this was mutual combat. And their policy is to take one of us to jail. They elected me because I was already there.
And subsequently the charges were dismissed.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see your paperwork, please. Now, Ms. Thompson, you tell me your version of these events, please.
He's been told several times, this would meaning the 5th time of this year, that he doesn't need to be over harassing me or coming over to my apartment. There's no reason for him to be over there since we do not get along. There's been a few domestic disputes in the past.
Whatever. Your daughter came home to gather some
Yeah.
stuff. Your brother is standing outside in the hallway of your apartment. What happened from there?
Okay, well, I buzzed my daughter to get in. I only seen my daughter get in. and
Fine. Your brother is standing
He
in the
pushed his
landing.
way in my
Where was he
apartment.
in the apartment?
He was standing in the living room.
Is the living room as soon as you enter into the door?
Yep.
Fine. Okay, so he's standing in the living room. What happened next?
He was trying to say hi, and he was being very much agitating and aggressive. And I said, why are you here? You know, you don't get along. We don't get along.
What did he tell you?
He was very much trying to say hi,
No, Miss
very
Thompson.
jumping up and down.
Miss Thompson, pay careful attention to me.
Okay.
He was there because he had brought your daughter there, right?
He could have waited in the car.
Just a second. Answer my question.
Yes.
He was there because he brought your daughter there,
Yes.
and he was waiting for her.
No,
He took her back to get her car.
that's correct.
Right. She got her things, and eventually, after this altercation, she left with him. Is that right?
It's correct.
Now, I want you to tell me about this hammer that you admit that you hit him with.
First, he punched me first before I got a chance.
Where did that take place?
It happened in the hallway.
What level of the staircase did it happen where he punched you?
On the 2nd level.
Was he in front of you or behind you?
He was in front of me.
What were you doing following him out of the building?
He was still agitating me the whole way.
What were you doing following him as he was leaving the building?
Your Honor, he's constantly over in my apartment.
I don't care about constantly over. I'm asking you, he's leaving. You told him to leave. He's on his way down the stairs.
Right, agitatingly.
Not agitating, leaving the building. Whether he's leaving the building and he's saying words to you or he's not saying words to you, he's leaving. If he was agitating you, you close your door to your apartment, you say, my goodness, I'm glad he's out of here. You close the door, case closed. What were you following him for?
To make sure I didn't want him to come back.
Oh. When did you get the hammer?
I got it out from my closet in my apartment.
What did you call the police for?
I've constantly called the police.
No, I don't care constantly. What did you call the police for today, that day?
Because he was over again at my apartment harassing me.
Miss Thompson, was your daughter moving out of your apartment? Is that why she came over?
No, she just wanted one thing, a paycheck. She was in there for a second and out.
So she just came home to get a paycheck, right?
Right.
When did she tell you that she was just there to get a paycheck?
She didn't even bother telling me.
She walked in the door and you said something. You
He
must have
followed
said,
her up.
when your daughter walked in the house,
Okay.
did she tell you what she was doing there?
No, first she said, John is behind me.
Fine.
And then he pushed his way in. And then she went to get her check to get him out of there.
That's not why she went to get her check. That is not why she went to get her check. She came to the house because she had to get a check. She asked him for a ride. He was not there uninvited by someone who lives in your house. Does your daughter live with you? Does your
No.
daughter live with you?
No, she doesn't.
Did she live with you then?
No.
Okay, but her check was in your home?
She came over to visit me, and the check was in her pants pocket, and she came back to pick up her check.
So she leaves clothes in your house?
There's times she visits.
So she leaves clothes in your house?
Yes.
So she invited him to drive her home. She walked in and said to you, John's behind me. Not John's behind me, he's stalking me. He followed me here in order to hurt you.
Yes, he did, Your Honor.
No, he didn't, Miss Thompson. Now, Miss Thompson, you told him to leave and he was leaving. And your daughter was still upstairs. You're the one who gets agitated because you were following him down the stairs. You went upstairs and you got a hammer.
And he couldn't stay in his car?
He could have stayed in his car.
Mm-hmm.
Sure he could have. That doesn't give you license to go and get a hammer and assault him with a hammer. That doesn't give you license to do that. He's not a stranger. It's not somebody that you don't know. You may not get along with your brother, Miss Thompson, but that doesn't give you license to pick up a deadly weapon and to use it at all. And you're absolutely responsible for his lost day's wages, which in this case, all he's suing for is $134.84. You got it. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Apparently, if you tell the law that you don't want somebody to harass you, they keep doing it.
Terry is used to crying wolf.
Then the law will say that's okay.
If there's a wolf, well, I pray they find a wolf.
They can come over anytime they want and walk in your apartment and do whatever they want.
If they don't find a wolf, I pray they impose the consequences, and today they did.
My daughter told him to stay in the car 3 times, and he went ahead and did it anyway.
She's got this angry attitude.
I guess he's too happy.
She's always been contemptuous towards the family.
This won't be resolved. He's definitely going to still try to come over again, and he's going to try and attempt to keep harassing me. This isn't going to quit.
Absolutely not. She's just saying that.
7-year-old stock analyst Lori Rongstad is suing her ex-boyfriend, 28-year-old computer technician Eric Nelson, for the cost of a motorcycle.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 236 on the calendar in the matter of Ronstadt versus Nelson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Miss Ronstadt, when did you and the defendant start to live together?
Approximately May 1st, 2000.
And when did you separate?
He left on the 19th of July, 2001.
Were you both working at the time?
I was not working. He had lost his job the day prior.
So how did you support the household?
I have a nervous system disease, and I was receiving disability payments.
You were receiving disability?
Which exceeded his income.
No, that's a false statement, Your Honor.
Oh.
Yes, it is.
What kind of work were you doing, sir?
I'm a computer technician.
And how much did you earn last year?
$63,000.
Okay. Now, did you move into a new apartment together, or did you move in with him, or did he move in with you?
We moved into a new apartment together. I was making $110,000 at the time I lost my job. and I was receiving disability payments in excess of $2,600 a month.
Your Honor, she was borrowing money from her mother to support this.
This lawsuit has to do with the fact that you claim that you purchased for your joint use a motorcycle.
That's correct.
That's a false statement, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson, I don't want to hear from you until I look in your direction or ask you a question
Okay.
that he won't return to you.
That's correct.
Mr. Nelson says that you purchased this motorcycle for him as a gift. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor, that's true.
Okay. Now, I would like you to tell me the circumstances surrounding the purchase of this motorcycle. When was it purchased?
It was purchased on April 20th, the year 2001. I purchased it because when I lost my job, we had a fair amount of money to live on, but by April, it became apparent that it just wasn't going to make it. I talked to Mr. Nelson, took a full 401k distribution. I got approximately $17,000 left. I have all the proof here. The bike cost $9,400. I did so because he was driving a 4Runner. The 4Runner was costing about $500 a month in just gas alone. And we needed to cut down on our daily expenses. We could not fork out that amount of money on a daily basis for gas. Plus, he had to pay a toll fee to go across the bridge to get to work. Using a motorcycle, you avoid the toll fee.
So?
So we bought the bike.
Now I'll hear from you.
Your Honor, on my birthday, 4/10, she told me that for my birthday, as a gift, that she would be buying a motorcycle for me. And it's a wonderful gift. Plus, it will save on the gas and all these other things. This was not for our use. It was for my use, and it was a gift as a birthday present. 4/10, we had discussed going to look at motorcycles on the weekend. We did so on Sunday, April 15th, and put a deposit of $100 on the motorcycle in question. We were waiting on the rest of the 401k loan to come in, and it did come in. Sorry?
Not a 401k loan, a 401k payout. She got cash.
Okay, yeah. Well, she took that money and told me that she was going to pay the debts that were incurred because of her out-of-control spending with eBay and whatnot, the debts that she was creating, as well as buying a motorcycle for me as a gift. We went back on 4/21 and paid the remainder of the balance. She was talking to the salesman, and I have a written statement from the salesman.
Don't tell me what the salesman said.
This is very important
And the
because
salesman should have been here.
he couldn't come here because he's a salesman. He couldn't make it. He doesn't know me. Why would he take the time to come to the
Not a
court?
reason. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Mr.
Well,
Nelson.
she also told Jamie Curley and my mother. We rode the motorcycle to my mother's house, and she boasted this beautiful gift that this generous gift that she bought for her son, as a birthday gift.
Why did you leave in July?
We were having some difficulties. We were having a lot of difficulties, and she was adding a lot of stress to my life, and plus my children. She was not really caring for my children or very sympathetic towards the situation between my children and I. She didn't want them around. She was trying to control how often I saw my children and
But
whatnot.
that wasn't a recent thing. That probably had been going on for
This
a while.
has been, yes.
Was it going on before April of 2001?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
So what'd you take this very expensive gift for?
Because it was a gift for me.
So why did you accept a very expensive gift if things weren't going well?
They weren't going too well, but I mean, these things were tolerable, and it was getting progressively worse. When she lost her job, things just kept going downhill from there. And I got to a point where I was just fed up and I was done.
Now, one of the defenses that you have to this action, other than the fact that it was a gift, is that you say that jointly you purchased furniture for this apartment that you moved in together, and the only thing that you left with was the motorcycle.
It wasn't, I wanted to leave clean. I didn't want to have it drag out or anything, and we had discussed, she said I could take, I told her three things that I wanted. I'm going to take, I said I'd like to take a computer desk, the DVD player, and our big screen TV. And that's it, and you can have the rest, and I'm leaving. And I didn't include the motorcycle because that was a gift and that was mine. So I didn't ask her, is it okay if I take my motorcycle? I had a police civil standby because her son got out of control that night and brought two friends over.
Did you in fact take this TV?
No, I did not. She wouldn't allow me to take the TV because
So did you take anything from the apartment?
No. Excuse me. I took my clothes, my belongings, and
the motorcycle.
And the motorcycle. And the police wanted me to get my stuff and get out. They were there on a civil standby, and I was standing right next to an officer when I rode off with the motorcycle.
Now, who paid for all the furniture in the apartment?
She paid partially, and we had a joint account and whatnot, so I don't know exactly how much of what we paid for.
How much money did you put into the joint account each week?
Actually, I have it right here. I have statements right here.
I have a statement also, Your Honor.
How much money did he put into the joint account each week?
$1,263 every 2 weeks.
Okay, and what was the rent on the apartment?
$1,800.
$1,850, Your Honor.
Excuse me. This motorcycle was not an issue, if I may. This motorcycle was not an issue until after I'd left and she saw Miss Curley riding on the back of my motorcycle. We left the place, and then Miss Rungstad told me that she said, now, because of this stunt, you're going to lose the motorcycle. And that's when it became the issue.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lori Rongstad is suing her ex-boyfriend, Eric Nelson, for the cost of a motorcycle. Eric says Lori is jealous of his new fiancée.
Is it accurate that he put in about it would come out to about $2,700 a month?
He put it in, but he also had bills that used up all of that money.
I want to know who paid for furnishing the apartment.
I did. I sold over $80,000 worth of stock options. I bought all of the bedroom furniture prior to us ever moving in and charged it on an American Express card.
Are you telling me that he did not contribute to purchasing anything for the apartment?
No, ma'am, he didn't, because I had the cash. I had over $30,000 when we moved in. The only things that we needed to buy once we moved in were we bought a big screen TV, a DVD player, and a couple of VCRs.
Where did you pay for that from?
At that time, we did not have a joint account.
Where did the money come from?
From myself, from my stock option sales.
Your Honor, I also had stock that I had sold as well, and plus I also put extra money in that we bought stock together, and she put it in her son's name, and then sold the stock, and we used that money as well, so it's not going to look like it came from me at all, but that's what happened.
There's never been any stock in my son's name ever, and that can be proved through IRS records if needed.
I'd like to pull
Now,
those
I have one other question. The car that you had, the truck that you had, was that sold?
No, ma'am.
Did you continue to use it for the months of May and June?
Yes, I did at times, yes.
So you kept that. Do you drive?
I do drive, but I have my own vehicle.
What kind of vehicle do you have?
At the time, I had a Chrysler Concorde. However, it was tampered with, and the engine no longer worked, so I had to turn that in and buy a new car.
But when this motorcycle was purchased, you did not sell the other car that he had.
No.
That car was retained.
That's correct.
Now, do you have both vehicles now, sir, the motorcycle and that other car?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
You have both?
Yes.
Okay, and you had both in the month of May?
Yes, I did.
And you had both in the month of June?
Yes.
It was a gift. It was a gift, Ms. Rostad. Now, it may have been a gift that you decided should not be a gift because the romance didn't last more than a couple of months after you gave it to him, but that's really not dispositive.
No, Your
I
Honor.
would accept what you said to me about saving all the money because of saving all the gas money, et cetera, if the agreement was that he was going to sell the car that he had or the truck that he had so that there would be no additional expense, but there is certainly no saving by having two vehicles, two insurance, two repairs, two everything else. I mean, I think that, yes, oh yes.
May I
think that it is, no. I think that it's probably not the moral thing to do to accept this very pricey gift, sir, from somebody where the relationship wasn't going right. You know, guys like big toys, so you're going to take it anyway because where else were you going to get a $9,000 present? But I certainly think it was not the moral thing to do. Do we understand each other?
Yes, I do. I left that house, Your Honor, without taking anything, so
well, my
understand
sense is, from what the plaintiff tells me, that she had far more financial resources to spend to furnish that house than you did. I was a little sympathetic when I first read your answer, and you said, I walked out of this relationship with nothing. We had furnished a house for $25,000, and I just left with this gift and my clothes. Until I ascertained, sir, that you have children for whom I'm sure you pay child support, that you did put in certain joint monies into a joint account, but that went to pay off some bills. You had a car, you had insurance, you had gas. That eats up what you put in to the joint account. So I don't see that you had a lot left over to buy furniture. Whether it was a big screen TV, because that would have been a single guy's paradise to leave a relationship with a big screen TV and a motorcycle. So I'm sorry I can't help you, madam.
May I please say a couple other items that I was not able to say?
Sure.
Anything that was a gift, I gave him. I bought him Yardrow Eagles. I bought him a number of very expensive items. I gave those to him. Those were pure gifts. I was down to all of the last money I had in my life, my 401k. I would not have used half of that to buy him a gift. Also,
Yes, you did.
No, he also did
Yes,
not.
you did.
Ma'am, he also did not use.
You shouldn't have used, if it wasn't a gift, you should not have used half the money that you have in your whole life to buy him a motorcycle.
Your Honor.
That's not smart.
I know
And
it
don't give me
wasn't.
all the baloney about he was going to save money on gas. Common sense suggests to me that if you were going to buy somebody a car to save money.
Why
so
did I
that-
put it in my name?
No. Listen to me carefully. You would buy him a car for $8,000.
It
because-
doesn't get
because
across the
I'm
bridge
s-
fast.
Hey!
He was
Did I
welcome
look
to
at you
leave.
and ask you a question? A motorcycle is not something that one buys to save money.
It is.
No.
I
A
also grew up with
four-cylinder
them.
little car just to get you to and from work can save money,
Yes, sir.
right? A motorcycle is a boy toy.
I like motorcycles, and I've always had them.
Good. Buy yourself another one.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's obviously filled the judge's head with lies. I mean, they won when they're purely evil people.
We were next door neighbors, and Lori, Lori won't take any responsibility for their breakup.
I have 20 police reports of all the harassment.
A woman scorned.
After I left her, I got involved with Jamie Curley, and she's off at that.
64-year-old Mildred Terrell is suing her ex-granddaughter-in-law, 24-year-old daycare worker Love Marlowe, for destroying her furniture.
Miss Terrell, according to your complaint, the defendant married your grandson. Is that right?
Yes.
And there came a time when they were having difficulty paying rent, so you all decided to rent a place together. And you moved in to the place with them.
Yes.
And when you moved into this new place, according to you, you brought some furniture with you.
I brought everything.
All your furniture.
All my furniture, all the dishes, everything in the house was mine.
And then there came a time when your grandson left the defendant.
I moved out before then because of trouble that was going on. And as soon as he was able to take care, he had had surgery on his shoulder, and as soon as he was capable of taking care of the baby, I did move.
They have a baby.
Yes.
How old is the baby?
18 months.
And when you moved out, did you take your things with you?
Only thing I took with me was my bed, an end table, and a chair, and my TV, and a few dishes, and a couple of pants. That's all I took. I didn't want to take everything and leave them with an empty house, because that's what it would have been. Sheets and everything were mine.
And when did your grandson leave?
They were having trouble with the house, not only the rent, but other personal problems they were having. They moved out into their apartment, and they were there, I'd say,
Now, when
2
they
months.
moved out and went into this yet another rental property, did they take all the things with them?
Yes, I told them they could borrow until they got their own.
What did they take with them?
They took my couch. I have a list here, Your Honor.
Let me take a look at
Thank
the
you.
list. VCR, a couch, a lazy boy recliner, vacuum cleaner, some VHS movies, a rug, 3 end tables, a coffee table, a king-size bed, and miscellaneous stuff, linens and dishes, a dresser, those things you said they could take with them. And when did your grandson leave?
Right around the first week in January.
And where did he go? Do you know?
He came to my apartment, was there 3 or 4 days until the harassment got so bad by Love Marlowe and her family that he went to his mother's. And then he was there a while.
And where was the baby?
With him.
Where is the baby now?
With me.
She has temporary joint conservatorship of him now.
Now, when he left and came back to you for a short period of time, did he bring any of these items?
No, he didn't get out of the house with anything but the clothes on his back.
And the baby?
She took his socks, his underwear, she kept everything.
Okay. All right.
And Your
So
Honor,
what's your suit? Just a second.
And one of the times when she was there,
No.
I had a criminal trespass.
How long was your great-grandson with your grandson. Until when?
April 23rd.
Is that when a court granted you temporary conservatorship of the boy?
Yes, ma'am.
And how often does your husband see the boy?
Every other weekend.
Okay. Now, tell me what happened with all this property.
Okay, well, when we lived in Cleveland, Texas, when she lived with us...
we lived together.
We...
Don't interrupt her.
We did not get along because...
I don't care why you didn't get along. I'm asking you what happened to the property.
She moved out. She left it all there. She said she didn't want it. You know, we could have it. Well, of course, you know, we took everything that was in the house to our apartment because it was given to us. It was ours. Then we and Andy were not getting along, so he went to his grandma's. Well, I went over there, and he told me he was going to take off with my son, that I was never going to see my son again. So I went to go get a lawyer. I came back. He told me that I could come in to see Josh in her house. So I did. As soon as I went into the apartment to go see my son, she was standing out there and she waved the cops over as soon as I walked in. Well, the only thing that I wanted to do was get my son and get out of her apartment, go back to my apartment, which is just right across the way. Anyway, well then she told the police officer that I had hit her. I never laid a hand on her. Never.
What'd you go there to take your son for? I thought you went there to visit with him.
Well, I wanted to take my son out of her apartment and go into my apartment, and he wouldn't let me. He wouldn't let me leave the apartment and go back to my apartment.
With your son?
With my son, exactly.
Well, but you had no right to him at that point. You had no more right to him than your husband had.
Well, I mean, the only thing I wanted to do was just go into my apartment instead
you
of
wanted
stay
to
there
take,
with her.
No, you wanted to take your son.
Well,
do you understand? You
yes,
went there under the pretext of coming to visit him, but it was your plan to go and take him, and then take him into your apartment. That's what you just said to me.
No, ma'am. I just wanted. The only thing I asked Andy is that if I could visit him, that I wasn't going to go nowhere with him, that I could just visit with him in my apartment instead of being there in her apartment.
Yeah, but you didn't intend to give him back.
I wasn't going to take Josh nowhere.
No, but you weren't going to give him back. You were going to keep him in your apartment.
Well, Andy could have, come over there or whatever. I didn't care.
I got it. Now, when you left, what arrangements did you make to get your things?
As soon as I could replace it, I wanted my things back.
What happens if she can't replace them?
Well, I'm sure they could, one piece at a time. Your Honor, why would I, at my age, walk out of a house with a chair and a bed, you know, after I'd worked so hard to get all of it?
I don't know. When you moved back to Texas,
and I have copies of pawn tickets where she pawned my stuff.
Did you pawn some of her property?
The movies were mine and Andy's. The VCR Andy had before we got together, and it was Andy's. And the only reason that I had pawned anything because I had to get a lawyer so I could get my son back, because Andy took my son and was gone for 6 weeks and 5 days, and I had no idea if I was ever going to see my baby again.
What does that have to do with my furniture?
Okay. Where are the 3 end tables?
I don't know what she's talking about there. I have no idea.
Is there a king-size bed?
There was, and when Andy come and got the kitchen table and his TV, he threw the bed in the dumpster.
Because there were men's underpants laying on top of the bed and men's shirt on the floor. There were stains on the bed, and I said, I don't want the nasty thing. Throw it in the trash.
You're talking about the mattress?
Yes. So we threw it in the trash.
Okay. Then you can't get reimbursed for it.
Well,
you threw it in the trash.
It wasn't that way before, Your Honor.
Who knows? You haven't seen it for a year.
I saw it before Andy left, and I know it wasn't that way. And I know there was men's underpants and his clothes laying on it that weren't my grandson's.
You can't become emotional about that and expect to be reimbursed for it.
That's fine.
Ms. Terrell, the truth of the matter is, you said to both your grandson and his wife, take this furniture, use it for as long as you need it, as you can replace it. If you said that, as you can replace it, I would like it back.
Yeah.
But there is a strong likelihood that they could never replace it, and you are not going to see this furniture again.
Well, I'm sure sooner or later they
Well, sooner or later,
it.
then you get a mattress back that's a little bit stained.
Not from other men.
You don't know that. Did you do a DNA test on the mattress?
No, but it certainly wasn't Andy's underpants.
So we don't
on
know
the bed.
that. So we don't know that. And I'm not testing your grandson's bed either. That's not my job. All right. You have her couch and you have her recliner. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
She has the rug. It was in Rhonda's house the last I heard.
Who's Rhonda?
This lady standing right here.
You have her rug?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you doing with her rug?
Well, I thought it was Love's, and she told me I could borrow it.
Is it in good shape?
Yeah.
Right. Fine. So we have your rug, your couch, and the Lazy Boy recliner. Those are really the big items here.
All the movies, Your Honor.
Oh, I'm not going to go into 104 movies. I don't know why you would leave them with 104 movies anyway.
Well, because they didn't have cable, they
Give
didn't
them
have
one,
anything.
give them one at a
that's all
time.
they
Give them
could
one
do.
at a time. I cannot be a divorce lawyer because he's not here, and I can't question him
you
as
can
to whether
call
or
him.
not... What?
He sent a number if you'd like to call him.
I'm not calling him. I'm not doing your evidence for you.
No, his lawyer, really, Your Honor, his lawyer advised him not to be here.
Well, that's fine.
To
So I
not
have to
to
take
argue
things
with love.
So I have to find things here that everyone almost agrees on, and that is a couch, a recliner, and a rug. Those things I know about.
Vacuum cleaner.
You were without a vacuum cleaner for a year?
Until I bought another one.
Well, so you have one.
It was a brand new one she took.
No, you gave it to the kids to use.
That's
to use.
not giving, I love
No,
it.
you... I gotcha. Ms. Terrell, I'm following where you're coming from, madam.
Well,
I don't think
ma'am,
you're
I didn't
following
give it
where
to
I'm
her.
coming from.
I guess
Where
not.
I'm coming from is I have children and I have grandchildren, and if you have extra stuff, even if you have stuff that's not extra additional, you say, you don't have anything, kids, here, use this. If you can replace it one day, terrific, I would like it back, because there's no bargaining
But you
with
don't
children.
Let it go on forever. Till it's worn out,
Sometimes
then
you
they'll
do.
give it back.
Sometimes you do. And Ms. Terrell, I'm going to tell you this. In my view, if your grandson left, set up an apartment, had been awarded permanent custody of his child, and needed the couch and the recliner and the rug and the vacuum cleaner, and brought it to his house, you would not be standing here today.
Yes, ma'am, I would.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes, I would.
No, Ms. Terrell, you would not. What I'm doing is I'm directing you. Within 5 days, the couch, don't make any additional stains on the couch. Don't vandalize it in any way. The Lazy Boy recliner and the rug, which is to go back to her house, post haste. 5 days, the court will draft an order.
How about my end tables and so forth?
She doesn't have them. She doesn't know what you're talking about. Listen, you never know what's going to happen in the future. You have every confidence that your grandson is going to get custody of his child. That may happen. It may not happen. All I'm telling you is don't antagonize the situation any further, because it's nice to have a reasonable relationship with the custodial parent of your grandchild or your great-grandchild, and to make a big deal over 3 end tables at your stage in life is nothing short of being very short-sighted. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy's right. The only reason she is doing this is because I did get custody of my
It
son.
has nothing to do with my grandson.
I think that Andy should have come to me and left her out of it.
This was all being planned before she got temporary custody of my grandson.
She does nothing but start trouble anyway.
I haven't spoken to her since last January.
Don't.
Here, Jennifer Kettleson is suing her brother, 25-year-old welder Nathaniel Kettleson, for unpaid loans, the return of her belongings, and damages from an assault. Nathaniel is countersuing for storage fees.
Ms. Kettleson, the defendant is your brother. I've read your papers, your complaint, and your answer. Nowhere in the complaint or the answer do I see the need for any child witnesses, so I'm going to have her take this child outside.
Come on, buddy.
All right. According to what I've read, you were living in Alaska with your children. Things weren't going well there. You spoke with your brother. Your brother offered to open his house to you if you wanted to relocate from Alaska to Montana, where he lived with his family. You sold some stuff, packed up the rest, and moved in with your brother. Things did not work out. You got into a major brouhaha with him, either a week or 2 later. According to you, he kicked you out of the house.
Right.
You want him to pay for the following: $500, which is what you say it cost you for a motel to stay with your family. $1,400, which is the amount that you say you had to borrow for airline tickets because someone else said that you could come to stay with them in New York. A couple of $1,000 for your aggravation. In addition, you claim that he had borrowed some money from you.
That's correct.
Several $100s, and he didn't pay you back all of the money. Right?
Correct.
Mr. Kettleson, your brother, has a counterclaim. His counterclaim is you left, and you left a whole bunch of your stuff there, and then he and his family were relocating. Because he was a nice guy, he took your stuff with him when he relocated, and the van wasn't big enough to hold his stuff, so he had to put his stuff in storage, and he wants you to pay for the storage for his stuff because he took better care of your stuff, right?
That's correct.
Are you all nuts or what? Ms. Kettleson, If you go and live with somebody, a member of your family, and things don't work out, you believe that there's a contract, and the contract existed between you and your brother to provide a home for you and your children, even if the situation became intolerable? And that's why you believe he's responsible for this $1,900 in expenses you had to move out of his house?
Your Honor, he called me up and he said that we can come down and stay with him. And he seemed very, very polite about it and everything. And he had to convince me to come down.
You're a big adult. Do you think if a living arrangement doesn't work out with a relative, you're entitled to further relocation expenses?
Yes, I do.
Wrong. I don't have to hear anymore. Forget it. That doesn't happen. And your aggravation as a result of that also doesn't happen. You take your chances. You moved from Alaska, where you weren't doing well, to Montana in the hopes that you would do better. Didn't work out, so you moved on. That's not a lawsuit. That's called unfortunate.
Your Honor, he said that he would be sending my stuff to me. I have a letter from him about that, and...
Okay, so he has some of your belongings.
Right.
Fine, let's talk about the loans first. We'll talk about the belongings second. Loans, when did you lend him money?
I lent him money on October 10th, or 18th.
How much?
$300.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Did you pay her back?
I paid $200 of that back.
You have any proof of that?
No.
She says you paid back $150.
Yes.
Wasn't expecting it to go this far.
Okay. What was the next loan? When was that?
October 18th.
What were the circumstances surrounding that loan?
He brought his daughter over so I can watch her and while he went somewhere, and he asked me for $100.
Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Did you give her back that money?
No, I did not.
Fine. So you owe her $250. That's easy. What else?
It says right here, I will get my taxes back in about 2 weeks. It should be enough to mail your stuff. What do you want me to do with the stuff that you left with Maurice? Don't worry, I am going to send all that you left there.
What kind of stuff do you have?
My computer, my belongings, my
Don't take my belongings.
Anything
Your computer.
Okay, my computer, our baby books.
There's no baby books.
Yes, there is. My kids' clothes. I have a leather jacket in there. Picture frames, beanie babies, sleeping bags, all sorts of things.
Okay. Did you send him any money to send you back that stuff?
No, he was supposed to send it with the money that he owes me.
Well, that's fine. You have all that stuff? It's all packed up?
Yes.
And you owe her $250. Do you think it'll cost more than $250 to send it?
Far more.
How much?
It was $174 a box. She wants it insured and priority mail and everything else with it. It was basically going to round off to about $200 a box to mail
Your
her
Honor,
stuff.
when I...
Just a minute. How many boxes of stuff do you think you have?
2 boxes, about 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, stuffed full.
And how much do you think that that's going to cost?
About $200 a box to mail it.
So about $400.
About $400 total to mail it.
Do you want to spend that?
No, I went to the post office in Montana and I asked them how much it is, and they said $50 for 70 pounds.
Well, I'm not going to guess how much it is to mail all your stuff back. He's not responsible to you to mail all your stuff back.
He said right here that he will. So he's
not
responsible.
No, he's not responsible for paying for it. It's your stuff. You left it there.
He owes me the money. He was
Fine, you're not, Miss Kittleson. He owes you $250. What if it costs $500 to mail back your stuff?
It doesn't. I went to the post office and it costs $50 for 70 pounds. I made sure that those 2 boxes were less than 70 pounds.
How did you make sure of that?
Because I know how much I brought down in those boxes.
Miss Kittleson, you're going to have to make arrangements for payments. The stuff is all boxed. He's prepared to turn it over to you. You have to make arrangements to get it. That's your job. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Good. In the meantime, he's going to give you the $250 that he owes you, and that may help to defray some of your costs.
He should also pay for the tickets, at least
I
from
don't believe so.
Montana to New York.
Oh, he's not paying for that at all. I just explained that to you.
Okay, then the hotel and stuff.
He's not paying for that either.
He should
Salvation
have
Army
to
and my
because
wife's
it was
boss paid
his
for this
fault that
hotel.
I had to leave. He said, come on down here and stay with me. You can stay with me until you get settled. And then he
And then there was a fight.
Yes. And
it didn't work out. So you left. No. And evidently you left not under terrible circumstances.
Oh, yes, it was.
Well, he said the next day you were babysitting for his daughter.
2 days later.
2 days later, you were babysitting for his daughter, which is when you gave him a... Miss Kettleson, get over it. He doesn't pay for your airfare. He doesn't pay for your hotel. He pays you the money that he owes you, which is $250, and you make arrangements to get your stuff, which is boxed, period.
I have to pay $1,349 because for my airfare ticket from Montana to New York because of the way he was to me.
No, no, no.
Same
Yes.
No, Miss Kettleson.
$1,349. She
No,
could have rented a place to live in Montana.
Miss Kettleson, what if you decided to relocate to Paris? And the airfare to Paris is $5,000. You think you should pay $5,000?
If that's the case.
Bye. You count the suits likewise dismissed. It's nonsense.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think Judge Judy made the proper decision. I owe my sister $250, and I fully intend to pay her it.
I think he should have been able to pay all of it.
The money she borrowed for airfare, she could have rented a place in Montana and stayed there.
He just totally ruined my kids and my life.
Her kids were not under control. She wouldn't control them when I asked her to. She refused to discipline her children.
Harris and her boyfriend, 62-year-old pest control technician Dennis McGrew, are suing their former friend, 19-year-old construction worker Robert Pasco, for stealing their collection of Pokemon cards.
Order. Come to order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 114 on the calendar in the matter of Barbaros, McGrew versus Pasco. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Miss Barbaros, according to the complaint that I've read, you and your family have known the defendant from the time he was a little boy. And he grew up, he was in need of a job, and you gave him a job as a security person in your business. So far correct?
Yes, ma'am.
While he was acting in his capacity as a security guard, it is your claim that he stole a very valuable collection of Pokemon cards that you had kept in a safe or some sort of safe place in your place of business, and it is your belief that the defendant stole them. So far correct?
So far, so good.
The defendant says he did not do it. So tell me when he came to work for you.
Last summer, Robert came to me and said that his mother had thrown him out and he needed a place to live and a job. And I've done that before with Robert. I've given him jobs before. So I gave him my key to my building and I said, okay, you can sleep.
What kind of building is it?
Pest control. I own a pest control company.
That's incorrect.
Shh.
Sorry.
We'll get there. Go ahead.
I said, you can stay here at night and you can work during the daytime. We'll give you odd jobs with the handymen or going with the men, etc.
Okay.
And he did that, erratic at best. I called his mother and let her know that he was there. And he became irresponsible. We took the key back.
When did you take it back?
2 to 3 weeks after he first came.
Go ahead.
Several of Robert's friends, I don't remember now if it was 4 or 5 of them, came in one day and they said that we're returning your property. Robert stole your cell phone, a gold watch, and Pokemon collections. He sold the cell phone to us, and he's selling the Pokemon cards in Creekside, which is, Creekside is an apartment building in the back neighborhood.
All right, now you can't tell me what these people said to you, but you can tell me what they did. They came into your place of business with property.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when had that property been stolen?
Probably the day before or 2 days before. The same day we took the key back.
Where was the Pokemon collection kept?
In glass cabinets and in the office.
When did you notice it missing? Immediately?
No, I didn't notice them missing until they came in and told us that he was returning the cell phone and that he had Pokemon collections, the books.
Okay. Did you go over to Creekside?
Mr. McGrew did.
What happened when you got there, Mr. McGrew?
Tried to confront Robert. He ran.
Where did you confront him?
In Creekside Apartments.
Was he in an apartment or was he outside?
No, he was outside.
Did he have anything with him?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing.
What did you say to him when you approached him?
I asked him for my Pokemon cards.
They were your cards?
Her and I had purchased them together for the 2 kids here and 2 godchildren.
So you went over to Creekside to try to confront Robert, who saw you, you say he ran.
Yes.
But he had nothing with him.
No.
Did you ever get back any of the property?
Some of the Pokemon cards got back through school, through his little brother. He was passing them out.
Whose little brother?
Robert's. He was passing them out. Robert had given him the cards.
You don't know that? You didn't see that. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Did you see that?
I have them.
You have the cards that were given back to you that were in the possession of his younger brother.
Yes.
How old is your younger brother?
8 years old.
Your younger brother didn't have a key to the premises, did he?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, they were cards. I'm not speaking to you.
My mom can verify that, Your Honor. They had given my little brother some cards. My mom can verify that.
Did you ever confront Robert about taking the cards?
Yes, I did.
When?
When I caught him at Creekside Apartments. He admitted...
That same day?
Yes. And he admitted to me at that time that he took them and that there was no way I could prove it.
What did he say?
He said, I took your Pokemon cards and there's no way you can ever prove it.
What did you say to him?
I can't say that here.
Yes, you can.
I told him he's a lying.
You said that he ran from you.
He ran from me.
Tell me about how you approached him.
I pulled up to the street. I told him to get in my truck. He got in my truck. I started to drive. He got out and ran away.
Just a minute. So he didn't run away initially.
Oh, no, because I grabbed him by his arm.
We're not following each other. I'm going to get this story my way. You drove up in your truck to Creekside.
Yes.
Did you get out of your truck?
Yes.
What did you do when you got out of your truck?
He walked up and acted like nothing was wrong.
So he
Still
didn't.
a friend.
So he didn't run away initially.
Not until I put him in the truck.
What did you say to him when you got out of your truck?
I confronted him about the Pokemon
What did you
collection.
say to him?
I asked him, where's my Pokemon collection?
And what did he say?
He said he didn't have it.
And what did you say to him?
I told him to get in the truck. We're going to go
And-
back to the shop.
And what did he say to you?
He got in the truck. Then I started to take off, and he jumped out and ran.
And that was what happened on that day. Is that right?
No, I went back to the shop. A friend of mine came back with me to Creekside, found Robert, trapped him upstairs on some steps. He was hiding up behind this big guy, a friend of mine. And we had the police called.
Yes.
Police came, did nothing, took him in on some warrant that he had.
Just a second. When you had him trapped in the stairwell, was there any conversation that you had?
Yeah, he told me that he did it and there was no way I could ever prove it.
Is that when the conversation took place with regard to the Pokemon cards?
Yes,
Did you tell that to the police?
Yes.
When the police came?
yes.
Did they write it down?
They took a report.
Do you have the report?
No, I do not.
Why not?
Because it was never filed. They don't file reports in Simi Valley.
Of course they do. You don't have the police report?
There was never a police report made, Your Honor.
There was a police report,
There was a
Your
police
Honor.
report made, the officer's name.
Why didn't you get a copy of the police report?
They never filed a police report. They have a number 0018796 of
That's
some
a report. That's a report. Listen!
Yes.
Police respond, they have to file a report whenever they respond to a location. Do you understand that?
Not in Simi Valley.
Simi Valley is still part of this world.
Not
Still
really.
part of the United
really.
States.
Not really.
There's no crime.
We don't have crime in Simi.
Everything's civil.
Your Honor, if I may say,
Sure.
he did
I'm not
actually...
ready for you yet. I'm not ready for you yet. I'm
Not
not
yet.
so sure you didn't do this.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
You understand clearly what I'm saying to you.
I understand.
I have very, very good intuition. Very good intuition.
I understand.
Good.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Portia Barberis and Dennis McGrew say former friend 19-year-old Robert Pasco stole their collection of valuable Pokemon cards. Robert says they've got the wrong guy.
Now, how many times have you been arrested?
A few.
How many?
3 or 4.
For what?
Drugs.
Drugs.
Under the influence.
Using or selling?
Using.
Ever been arrested for possession?
No.
Of course, you had to have them in your possession in order to use them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
What kind of drugs were in your possession when you were arrested?
I was under the influence of a controlled substance.
What?
Methamphetamine.
Where did you get them?
Friends. Wherever I...
That costs money.
I never...
Listen to me. That costs money.
Sure.
How old were you when you were arrested for the first time?
16.
How old were you when you started to work for them?
17. Between 17 and 18.
How old were you when the Pokemon cards were stolen?
18.
Immediately prior to the Pokemon cards being stolen, when was your last arrest?
When I was 18.
Was it before or after the confrontation with the plaintiffs?
Before.
Before.
Yes.
How much before?
Maybe about 4 or 5 months before.
And what happened with that case?
I was put on probation. Went to jail for 3 days.
And prior to that, were you also placed on probation?
To another charge? No.
One of the 3 or 4 other cases of arrest.
I was placed on probation once, and that was for the drug. That was it.
What happened to the other arrests?
They were just put all together into one.
Oh,
I got
you
charged
got
with
a
diversion.
forfeit.
I got put on diversion.
You
Your
got a
Honor.
forfeit.
I got put on diversion. I violated it. They reinstated it when I messed up and got the other ticket.
Since July of 2000, have you been arrested?
Yes, I have.
Huh?
Yes, I have.
For what?
Failure to appear.
Failure to appear for what?
Court date.
Don't play
It was
with me.
diversion. I violated my diversion again. I did not finish
How
my
did you
classes.
violate your diversion?
Did not finish my classes.
What about drug screenings?
Never had one dirty test, Your Honor.
So why were you violated?
For not going to my diversion classes. They're drug
Why
meetings.
didn't you go to your diversion classes?
No real excuse. I just didn't have the money at the time to get out there. It was in a different valley.
Well, what are you doing now?
Right now, I'm working.
For whom?
My mom's friend is a construction worker doing concrete.
How long have you been working for them?
Just for about a week and a half.
And before that, what were you doing?
I've had many jobs. I mean,
You can't hold
I've
on
worked
to
at
a
a
job
fast
if
food
you're
place.
doing meth. You know
That was before that, Your Honor. I've been clean for quite a few months now.
How many is quite a few months?
4.5 months.
Were these people nice to you?
In the beginning, yes, Your Honor. They were. They opened their arms and they did let me stay in there and they did offer me a job.
And that was at a time when things weren't going so well at home. You were using drugs off and on. You were arrested a lot.
Correct.
Did you need money back in the summer of last year?
No. I just needed food in my stomach and a place to sleep.
Well, you were using some drugs last
Not at the time when I was homeless. When I got kicked out, I just stopped using drugs. I couldn't afford it, Your Honor.
Well,
I was worried
you could
about...
afford it if you sold Pokemon cards.
Never stole those Pokemon cards, Your Honor.
You liar.
For one, Your Honor, I was
Don't speak.
never given a key to stay there. They would never give me that key, Your Honor.
Robert,
They never gave me a key there.
Just a
Robert.
second.
No, you guys never gave me a
shame
key.
on
You're a
you.
liar.
Just a
You had
second.
my key.
Just a second. Did you
Shame on
physically?
you.
Did you physically give him the key?
Yes, I did.
Tell me when.
When he first came there and said he didn't have any place to stay, I called his mother. She said, okay, I know where he's at. And I gave him my key.
She never gave me her key, Your Honor.
Yes, she did.
No, she did not, Your Honor.
Of course she did.
She didn't trust me enough to give me her key. Okay, one of my friends had stolen that cell phone. When my friend came in there and stole that cell phone,
Your Honor,
he
nobody
had got-
trusts him enough.
Listen. Now leave. Leave. Leave.
So the cell phone had been stolen by one of my friends, and I took responsibility for that and told him to go turn it back in because it was my job that was getting...
Just a second. Now we're getting somewhere, Robert. How did you know one of your friends stole the cell phone?
He told me.
The cell phone was in the office.
Correct.
How did your friend get into the office?
Doors open all the time. They're open 24/7. I was not with him, Your Honor. He had showed me the cell phone. He said, look, I took this from Dennis. I said, well, you got to return it because you're going to get me in trouble. They're going to think I stole it. You got to go return it.
What's his name?
Kevin,
Where does he live?
didn't see me.
And so you're telling me that this Kevin is the one who stole the cell phone,
Correct.
and because you told him to go return it, he went in and returned the cell phone.
Yeah, it was my roof over my head and the food in my stomach. I wasn't ready to risk that. He was a friend, but not obviously a good one, stealing from my work.
Did you come into some money recently?
Not recently, but it's
When?
supposed to come in, Your Honor.
How much money?
A couple million.
Couple of million.
Correct. For a wrongful death from my father.
Mm-hmm. When was the last time you lived with your father?
I never lived with my father.
I would assume that that's one of the reasons why you've pursued this.
I didn't know about
2 days after my mom had called her and told her about my father dying, she decided to file a lawsuit because she knew I was getting some money. I had seen Dennis in the pawn shop. He confronted me. He said, started saying all these words to me, bad words. I hope you die exactly how your father died. If not, I would do it myself, but I want my money. It's exactly what he said.
Your Honor, do the boys get to speak?
About what?
About getting the cards back from Austin and the time that I saw Patty in the parking lot and I reached into her front seat and picked up a $500 card that belonged to this collection.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
that's
well, I'd like to know when that happened. Patty is his mother.
Yes.
Okay, let me hear.
She pulled up to the parking lot when I was picking the kids up from school, and I went over to her and I says, it's probably not a good idea, because I had gone to the
When was
principal
this?
About 3 weeks after this whole thing happened, and I says, it's not a good idea for Austin to be bringing these Pokemon cards to school and are giving them to friends. These are some valuable cards. And I opened the door and I was talking to her and I reached on the seat and I picked up a Blastoid, first edition Blastoid, Japanese. And I says, there's one of them right there. And she said, well, take it if it belongs to you. I said, it's about a $500 card. And I says, no, you keep it because when the police get around to getting there, you'll still have it and you'll present it to him. She says, well, I still have all the rest of them on the shelf at home. And then she called me and said that she found them in a dumpster, that they had found all of these Pokemons, all these valuable Pokemons. I mean, we're talking $5,000 right there in what we retrieved in the dumpster. So I immediately went to the dumpster. There was a lot of trash there, but there was not one card, not one piece of plastic, not one shred of all of these thousands of dollars worth of Pokemon that
I believe
collection.
You. Listen to me.
Okay.
I believe you.
Okay. Thank you.
How does that tie into him?
She has him in her car.
She says they found him in a dumpster.
Oh,
Do I believe
that was
her?
weeks later.
Do I believe
I know
her?
you don't believe her. I didn't believe it either.
No.
You haven't heard the truth yet. I don't have a car, first off. I have a truck. She couldn't even see into my truck to see on my seat. She's not tall enough.
Open the door.
Oh, you opened my door now. Okay.
Hey!
We have the cards with his name on them.
With whose name on them?
His name. It's his collection. The cards that were stolen are in his possession now with the values on them and his name on them.
Yes.
He has those.
Where did
he
you
got
get
them from Robert's little brother?
I understand that. There has to be a nexus between Robert's little brother.
The little brother said Big Brother gave him to him.
Listen to me. That's hearsay. Now, if you were in a criminal court and the little brother were here or in the courthouse so that a judge could say to the little brother, where did you get those cards from? Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
I understand, and I understand the little niche in the law there.
It's not a niche in the law.
It's going to help him be found not guilty so that six little kids have lost their Pokemon collection.
They've lost it anyway.
That's true.
They've lost it anyway.
But at least they have got justice if you decide that he did
I'm
this.
telling you, I told you that he did it.
I agree.
I believe he did it.
It doesn't
in
mean
order
that
for
justice
me,
is going to be served
you're
here.
You're absolutely right. Robert, I want to tell you something. There's a piece of me, sir, that says that you are either personally involved or know how it came about that this valuable card collection was stolen. This is a card collection that has probably been in the same location for a very long time. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
It just so happens coincidentally that some meth freak who they gave a break to was living in the back room at a time when the Pokemon cards disappeared. Now, I don't believe him that you confessed.
No.
I don't believe him that you confessed. I believe you did it. I would love to be able to make a legal finding that you did it, but I don't believe you confessed. I just want you to understand me. I believe you did it, but I don't believe you confessed to him. He's a hothead. He thought that that would make a very good part of the case because he was told by the police in Simi Valley, that's still part of this universe I'm speaking, that without a confession you have no case. So I believe that he made that up. But I think you did it. I can't make a judgment, but I think you did it. Only you know whether you did it or not.
I know.
Oh, I know.
I know I didn't. You're right.
Oh, I know you did. I feel it, but that's not what courts are about. Now, the fact that the mother makes up some cock and bull story that they came from a dumpster, right?
Good one, huh?
It's a good one. It's a good one.
You haven't heard from me. You haven't heard from me what the story is. You've heard from her.
All I want to know is, well, you want to tell me that your son told you that his older brother gave him the cards?
My son can tell you because my son was with me, calling me at school.
I don't want to
tell
call
you.
I listen to
He'll
me.
tell you.
I don't
He was
wanna...
with me when we found him.
She had given him cards.
And I don't know that they were her cards. They were in baggies, a bunch of them. I don't know that they were hers. I called her immediately when I found them.
Stole the cards. Isn't a question in my mind. He knows it, I know it, and he knows that I know it, but she can't prove it. So, live with it.
Why didn't she
Case
come to
is
my house
dismissed.
and get them?
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I understand Judge Judy's position. Her hands are tied.
You know, Justin proved itself. I didn't do it.
Like she said, she knows he did it. He knows he did it.
You know, I told the truth.
He's lying through his teeth.
And I had nothing to do with it.
I don't believe my son did take them.
I have folders of my initials on them. He was stupid enough to leave my initials on them.
If I'd have known about the cards getting stolen, if my friend had done it, if anybody had done it, I'd have told him.
Give me a break.
He assaulted me before. He hit me. He can say all he wants to say about my dead dad. It doesn't bother me.
His fiancée, 24-year-old Julie Bressler, are suing former friends, 48-year-old furniture builder Stephen Kanarick and his son, 20-year-old Andrew. Alan claims Andrew bashed his car with a shovel. The Kanaricks have a countersuit, claiming Alan damaged their quad runner.
Order. Come to order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 164 on the calendar in the matter of Conklin Bressler versus Kanarick.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young man, have a seat.
Mr. Conklin, you were present during the course of this incident, but you were not. Is that right?
Yes.
You are here only because the car in question is titled in your name.
Yes.
All right, why don't you have a seat? Mr. Conklin, it is your claim, according to the papers that you filed, that the defendant's son, that would be you, damaged your car with a shovel, intentionally hitting your car with a shovel.
Yes.
This happened at their home during an altercation. They are counterclaiming for damage that you allegedly did to an all-terrain vehicle, as well as harassment and assault. So first tell me, how do you know the defendant and his son?
Well, we're good friends for the last 4 or 5 years, and he helped me with a job. And
What do you mean he helped you with a job?
Working at a shop, you know, because I was out of work, and I'm in construction, so it was tight.
What were you doing at his house?
I was doing work for him, doing spackling, and I went over one Sunday. I said, and I was talking to him, see how he's doing, and his son, 12-year-old son, was driving his quad up and down the street.
He's driving his?
His motorcycle, four-wheeler.
Is that this young man here?
Yes, Jonathan. I stayed approximately 15, 20 minutes. I was like, all right, Steve, you know, I'm going to go. I got in my car, started it up. It was still in park. His son comes down the road.
The little boy?
Yeah, the little boy.
Step up here. Yes?
And he pushes his quad, his motorcycle, against my front end of my car. He rips off the license plate and also the frame of the license plate, and I had to get it refiberglassed.
Did he do that on purpose?
He was pushing against my car when I was in it. I was still in park. And then he backs up and everything comes off.
So what happened after he did that? You were in the car?
I was in the car. The father's girlfriend has grandsons. They were over at the house. They were yelling that the license plate was off, and I got out of the car. I looked at it. I grabbed his son, and I held him.
Just a second. How did you grab his son?
By the shoulders. And I held him, and
how did you hold him?
I held him by the
Just a
shoulders
minute.
with one hand.
Show me.
Like this, with one hand. And was yelling at him, putting the license plate. I knew he was not going to put the license plate back on.
So you put your hands on him, and you were yelling at him?
And then he started...
Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Okay. Then he started crying, so I let him go. The quad was in front of my car, so I got on the quad to move the motorcycle and so I can leave, because the father was pushing me after that incident.
Just a minute. We're not there yet. The little boy starts to cry because you were holding him and yelling at him.
Yeah.
You let him go.
Yes.
Where did he go?
He ran in the house.
And what's the very next thing that happened, Mr. Conklin?
His father came over, started pushing...
That's this gentleman
yes.
here.
Started pushing me. His girlfriend started coming over and pushing me. I give him one...
Just a second. What were they saying to you when he...
Get out of here, get out of here. You know, and I was like, Steve, are you going to pay for this? Are you going to pay for this? And he was like, get out of here, we'll talk later. And it was just all big confusion.
I'm going to make it very unconfusing. So the father is yelling at you to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
You assumed his father was yelling at you because he would put your hands on his son. Is that right?
Yeah, but then...
Is that right?
Yes.
That's why he was yelling at you, because his son ran back into the house crying.
He attacked me. He did not take me by the shoulders.
Tell me what he did. Tell me your first name.
John?
Yes, John. Tell me what he did.
He got out of the car. And, he took me by the neck and smashed my head against the car saying, fix it. How would I be able to fix the car if he was attacking?
Your Honor, that's not true. I have the police report from the statements from the police. I have his report and also mine.
I'd like to see it.
And it says that I grabbed him and there would be no charges against him.
Just a second.
Or me,
Just
because
a second.
I just grabbed him.
Just a second. It says you grabbed him. The boy says that you grabbed him and hit his head against the car.
That's not true.
But you did grab him.
Yeah, I did grab him.
And you did yell at him.
Yes.
Wrong. You have no right to do that. And he's upset thinking about it now, which means that it was a very upsetting experience for him. Let's say you're in a car accident with somebody. You get out of your car and you grab them?
No, you...
Of course not. You don't put your hands on them, right?
Your
What
Honor,
gives you the right to put your hands on him?
I was just trying to scare him. I knew he was not going to put the license plate back on.
Why were you trying to scare him?
Because he was careless by pushing the car, and he kept on doing it, trying to muscle the car away, and then he pushes it back, and the license plate and everything comes off. And he's laughing and laughing, and I just grabbed him and said, "You going to put it back on?" And he starts crying, and I let him go. You know.
Yeah, okay. So let's get to the damage to your car, sir.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Just a second. We're going to get to you.
Okay.
I guarantee it. Go ahead.
When the officers came to my house...
No, I don't want to hear officers come to your house. We haven't gotten to the part, sir, where you say that your car was hit with a shovel.
Right.
Get to it.
Okay.
Father comes out and tells you to get out of here.
The father was outside, and he's grabbing me, pushing me with his girlfriend. I get on the quad so I can move it. He's grabbing me and pulling me. So I get off the quad, and it got flipped. And
Just a minute. You got off the quad, which is his motorcycle.
Yes.
But it's a child's motorcycle.
No, it's a fully sized quad. It's a four-wheeler. It's a full-grown sized motorcycle.
Do you know what that looks like?
Yeah.
Your Honor, I have pictures if you'd like to see.
I'd like to see it. Make it easier for me.
Pretty big size.
Okay. So you got on this thing, and then...
Try to put it in neutral.
Try to put it in neutral, and the father came out, and you flipped it.
Yes.
You flipped this thing.
Yes. To get it out of the way so I can leave, because his father and his girlfriend was pushing me, telling me to get out of here, and that's what I was planning to do, and it was in front of the car still, and I could not move, because there was another car behind mine.
Okay. Did you say to them, would you move that thing, and then I'll leave?
Oh, yes, I did.
So you picked it up and flipped it.
Just flipped it so it can move out of my way.
When you flipped it, did it land right side up?
It landed backside up. The front bars.
Now, it would seem
first.
to me that if you could flip it, you could just pull it out of the way. Is that right?
True, but him...
Just a second. You could just pull it out of the way. If it's flippable, it's pullable.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alan Conklin says his car was damaged and vandalized during a visit to the home of Stephen Cannery. Stephen says Alan attacked his 13-year-old son, Jonathan.
So you flipped it. Go ahead.
And flipped it.
And damaged it.
Damaged it, the handlebars.
Go ahead.
And the father started pushing me. The girlfriend
I heard
also.
the father pushed you. I heard the girlfriend pushed you. I heard.
So I give him one little push. He does a backwards tumblesort on the ground.
Who does?
The father.
Yes.
And the girlfriend of the father went in the house, called the police. Then his older son, Andrew, came outside the house with a shovel, started swinging it, hit my car. In the meantime, I'm fighting the father. He's pushing me and everything. I take the shovel away from Andrew, the son. I take it and I throw it. Then he picks up a scooter and starts swinging it at me. So I push them both. I get in the car and I leave. And when I'm leaving, the son goes and picks the shovel up again and hits the back of my car while I'm leaving.
Now I'll hear you.
Your Honor, I've been a good deeder, in a sense, to help Alan out over the years since I've known him. True, when he needed a job, I found him a job. I even gave him a job. 2 weeks prior to this incident, both Alan and Julie needed a place to live. Evidently...
Your Honor, that's not relevant to the case.
I'm not...
Sorry. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Evidently, Alan and Julie needed a place to stay. She being pregnant, they were living with Julie's father and mother and were asked to leave. I allowed them to stay in my home. I had to ask them to leave about a week after they moved in because Alan got violent with Julie. And not only did he physically grab her...
that's not true.
Excuse me, I'm talking now.
Just a second. Okay. Do I need help?
No.
Sorry.
Good. Don't do it again.
Okay.
He verbally assaulted her by calling her some graphic names, not only in front of my child, but in front of my girlfriend and my family. I told him that I wouldn't allow that kind of behavior in my home and that I didn't want him to stay any longer and that he would have to leave and that I didn't want him coming back. He left. I was working on my yard 2 weeks after the fact. Alan came over looking for a spackle knife, claiming he had a job to do the following day, and he had left it at my home. He walked into my garage, looked for it, and I told him, Alan, it's not here, and you don't belong here. I want you to leave. Jonathan and Alan do not get along. They've had many an argument about anything and everything. I told Alan to leave, and with that he said he would, and he walked to the end of the driveway, and I heard his car start, and I went back to my gardening. When I heard my son screaming, I turned around, and Alan had him by the neck in front of his car, smacking his head with the license plate, yelling at him to fix it. He kept on saying, fix it, fix it.
He was smacking him in the head with the license
Yes.
plate? Go ahead.
I ran over. I got between them. I grabbed Alan away from my son. He let go of my son, who ran into the house. Alan stood up because he was bent down, pushed me, and I fell. As Jonathan ran into the house, he walked over to the quad, which was right in front of his car, picked it up from the front, and rolled it 180 degrees, shouting, see how you like it now, to Jonathan. Joanne, my girlfriend, and the children were screaming. She went into the house. A couple seconds later, my son Andrew came running out. In my defense, picked up a shovel, swung it, and I managed to get onto my feet before he hit Alan in the head, and he hit the car. With that, the police came, Alan left, and that's the story.
What?
I called the cops, and it wasn't my dad's girlfriend. I'm the one. Because when he hit me, I ran in hysterical crying, and I called the cops.
Why did you back your quad into his car?
He was pushing me with the car, thinking he was funny.
He was pushing you?
Yeah, and my quad was going up. The quad fell, and I didn't want to start, so I put it in reverse, and the license plate cranked off. He got out of the car, took me by the neck, and smashed my head against the thing. Fix it, fix it, fix it. How would I be able to fix it if he's hitting me and doing what he was doing?
Why did you come over to where his car was?
I was riding the quad.
I understand that. You were riding the quad, but if you didn't get along with him, why did you come over to where his car was?
Because before the fact, I was washing the quad, and I put it on the side to dry. But then after it dried, I took it out for another ride.
Don't make stories. Answer my question. I said, if you don't get along with him, why did you go near his car?
I don't know.
That's a better answer. Now, I'm not making an excuse for him. He's bigger, he's older, and he's got a temper problem. So I have to determine whether the older son, that's you, was acting in defense of both his brother and his father when he hit your car with a shovel. And I find that he did and was acting in defense to get you to leave the property because at that time you were trespassing on his property. The moment he told you to leave, that you were not welcome there anymore, you were no longer an invited guest. You had absolutely no right to put your hands on a 12-year-old for any reason whatsoever. Whether I believe that you just put your hand on his shoulder or that you smashed him with the license plate, he wasn't injured but frightened because of your size, your bulk, your age, your anger, all of those things. You're bigger, you're heavier, you're older, and you're angry. And he may be a smart alecky 12-year-old, but you're supposed to be able to maintain your temper. Okay.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Sure.
The police came over to my house. I was going to have his son arrested for criminal mischief. His father starts panting and starts stomping his feet saying, no, no, no. Then I want him arrested for grabbing my son.
Absolutely right.
Okay.
Absolutely right. There is a difference between property damage and putting your hands on someone else in anger. The police tried to resolve this dispute between two people that knew each other. That's not what we're here for. I'm not trying to resolve your dispute amicably. I'm here to rule on it. And I'm ruling, sir, that you had absolutely no right to put your hands on a 12-year-old. And anything that flowed from that is your responsibility, including fixing your car. Put your hand down. So, and if it's her car, your girlfriend's car, fix it. He's got a temper. Is that right?
Yeah.
Good. So you gave someone with a temper permission to drive your car. You knew his temper, you knew the car, you put those two things together?
But, Your Honor, it's illegal in New York to drive a quad in the street.
I don't care. It has nothing to do with this. It has absolutely nothing to do with this. What it has to do with is his temper. And he had no right to put his hands on somebody else's child or anybody else as a result of, let us call it, a traffic accident. Can't do that. And anything that flows from that, you deal with it. Now let's get to the quad. The quad was damaged. You got to pay for that. You did it on purpose. You did it out of anger. How much did it cost to fix it?
I have two estimates here.
Cheapest one is $1,005.15. Is that right?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Okay. You have a lot of other things in your counterclaim, harassment and that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Do you intend to pursue that?
Yes, I would.
Go ahead.
First off, the harassment happened after, obviously, after this incident, where he called my son Jonathan several times on the telephone, telling him that...
No, don't tell me what he told Jonathan. Did you receive phone calls from him?
Did I personally?
No, Jonathan.
Did I?
Oh,
Yes,
you're
I
Jonathan.
did. Would you like me to explain?
Yeah.
All right. He called me up like several times, asking me for money, and who am I? Who's he asking me for money when he should?
Just tell me what he said to you.
He's like, I want my money. I want my car fixed, and he was like yelling at me and cursing me out.
And how many times? Yes.
When I called him up, I had him on speakerphone. My fiance was standing right there. I did not curse at him. I did not yell at him. I said, what's wrong with the quad so we can resolve this out of court? He said the handlebars and the throttle and the light in the front of the quad was damaged. That was all. I was like, Jonathan, thanks for being honest with me. And I was very polite, and we were on the phone for a half an hour talking. And I was like, listen, when your father gets an estimate for your quad, we can deduct it off of each other's estimates. And I was like, just let your father know that, and That was it, and we hung up.
How many times did you call him?
Just once, Your Honor. And then that Thursday, I called the father, also on speakerphone. She was right there.
Okay,
He said
so-
everything was wrong with the quad.
Just a second. This was all about this lawsuit. All right, it's not harassment. What else?
Came into my office at work the following day, walked into my office, threw papers down, told me that if I wasn't willing to pay for the damage on his car, he was going to have my son arrested.
That's not harassment.
As he walked out, he had a soda can in his hand. He threw it at my front window.
Nasty. He's got a temper. You gotta maintain your temper, so you're gonna be a father. If you need anger management, if you need medication, go and get it.
No, I don't.
What do you mean you don't?
Because his sons are animals. I'm going to go over his house.
Listen to me, sir.
Excuse me?
Listen to me, sir. Your girlfriend says you have a temper.
That's true, in somewhat.
No. If you have a temper, it's not in some way, because you had a temper with regard to your girlfriend, which is why you were asked to leave their home. Now, if you can't control yourself with your girlfriend in front of strangers, I have a concern that when you're alone with her, you find it very difficult to control your temper if you get angry.
I just start yelling.
Yelling with a person of your size and girth can be very frightening. But you certainly did more than yelling to him. You put your hands on him. You cannot do that. And I'm going to tell you something. Temper has the ability to escalate. So I would take care of it while you're still young enough and while you still don't have a baby yet. Babies don't like to be yelled at. They don't like to have somebody's hands put on them in anger. So I would take care of that problem. If you believe that you may have a problem, I take care of it now. You owe $1,005.15 to fix your temper. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I thought it was in my favor, but I guess it wasn't.
I think the judge was right.
I thought I was totally right.
I think Alan should have been arrested.
It wasn't my fault.
He had no right touching my son.
Sons are animals.
He's definitely a violent character.
I'm always going over his house to fix the work that they destroy. His son's putting holes in the walls.
As the judge said, he needs help.
Nothing would happen if his son didn't come up from down the road and start pressing his quad, his motorcycle, against my car.
He's got something missing.
I would have got in my car and left. That was it.
He's lucky he didn't get hit in the face with the shovel.
I should have took the shovel and started destroying his car.
I do not want...
Chastity Newby for terminating her daycare services without proper notice. Chastity says Charity neglected her children. She's countersuing for medical bills and lost wages.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. All rise. Miss. Yeah, this is case number 84 on the calendar in the matter of Macumba versus Newby. You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Miss McCumber, according to the complaint that I have read, you were employed by the defendant as a babysitter for her two children, her little girl who was 5 and a baby who was a year and a half old. You claim that she fired you.
Yes.
She fired you owing you money.
Yes.
And she has some of your property. The defendant says that she owes you nothing and is counterclaiming because she says that because of your negligence, one of her children was hospitalized for 3 days. How did you come to work for her?
A friend of mine had gotten my number from her, and then she contacted me because I was going to start a child daycare center. And she didn't want to bring the children to my home, so I went to her home.
Are you a licensed daycare provider?
I'm getting my license.
So you are not a licensed
No.
daycare provider. Do you have your own children?
I have one son.
How old is your son?
He's 10 months.
So you would be watching 3 children.
Right.
And what was the salary arrangement?
I was supposed to get paid $15 a day for the baby and $12 a day for the 5-year-old.
So a total of $27 a day.
Correct. She was also to give me a 2-week notice if she wasn't gonna, if she was gonna have another babysitter.
Okay, is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
What's not correct?
There was no verbal agreement about a 2-week notice, either on my part or her part.
Okay. Were there any problems that occurred between the time you started to work for her, which was the 15th of February?
Correct.
And mid-April when you were fired?
There was a couple times where she had called me complaining that I was not taking care of her children right, that I wasn't giving them enough attention, I wasn't feeding them correct.
What happened in April?
I had to go and pick up my nephew from preschool, and I had told her on Monday I had to get him on Friday. And I took the children with me, and I had the baby and my son in a car seat, and I had the 5-year-old in the front seat with a seat belt. When we got there,
I went inside and grabbed my nephew.
That's not where you would normally put the 5-year-old, is that right?
No, I put her in the front seat just like her mom does.
There's no airbags in my car.
Go ahead.
When I got to the preschool, my son was sleeping, and the night before I had taken him to the emergency room. And I didn't get home until midnight, and my son did not sleep the rest of the night. So since he was sleeping, I didn't want to disturb him because it was the first time he had gotten to sleep. I knew I just had to go into the door, grab my nephew, and come right back out. So I didn't see any harm in leaving the 5-year-old with the 2 children, since he was sleeping, running in and coming right back. I was gone maybe 1 to 2 minutes. That was it. Actually, the night before, when I went to the emergency room, I had asked her to if she could find somebody else to watch her children because my son was so sick. She told me she would try to get her aunt.
Just a minute. We're going back. You left the 3 children in the car.
Correct.
And I assume you locked the car.
Yes.
Where do you live?
Kingman, Arizona.
What was the temperature in April?
It was probably like 80, 85 at the time.
Did you leave the car on or off?
I left it off with the windows rolled down.
With the windows rolled down?
The windows were up.
Just a second. So anybody could have come in the car in that minute or two?
There were people outside, and I had asked one of the teachers to watch the car.
How old was your nephew that you were picking up?
4.
Where did you put your nephew in the car?
In the back seat.
Strapped in?
Yes.
Why didn't you put her 5-year-old there?
Because I let her be in the front seat so she could see everything, and I figured since I was watching her...
She can't see a thing. She's 5 years old. She can't see over that. All she's looking at is the dashboard.
My nephew likes to be in the back seat with his cousin. That's why I put him back there. I always put him back there.
Have you picked your nephew up from school before with the children?
Yes.
With or without her permission?
With.
Is that right?
Before, not this time. Yes, this time was without my permission. I told her not to leave.
Okay.
That's not true.
Okay. What time did you get home with the children?
Noon.
Go ahead.
When I got back to the house, my son had gotten a higher temperature. I called Chastity at work to find out about, calling her aunt to be there. She told me that she couldn't call because she was too busy, that when her husband got home that I could have him call the aunt to see if the aunt could come. When he did come home, probably about 10 minutes after I called her, when he got out of the car, he started cussing, saying that he shouldn't have even came home.
So what did you do?
He told me to go ahead and leave. When I returned home, after being at the doctor's all day, my girlfriend was there because she comes over every day from when her husband works. When she called my girlfriend, she started cussing and saying I was a bad mother, that I was neglectful, and that I shouldn't have been able to babysit her children.
Did she speak to you?
I called her back. She told me that I neglected the children, that she was going to file a police report on me if I filed a small claims on her. She said that I shouldn't be allowed to watch children because I was unstable. Then she told me that she didn't want me to watch her kids again, and I told her fine.
Had you been paid for that week?
No, she did not pay me for that week.
And how many hours did you work that week?
I worked Monday,
Tuesday,
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
You didn't work Thursday?
Half day.
Not even a half day. $27 a day?
Correct.
$81 for the 3 days?
Correct.
So what are you suing her for $415.98 for?
For the 2-week notice that we verbally agreed to, and she's got some of my belongings.
Now, what belongings do you claim she has?
She has a black sweater that I had left that day.
Do you have a black sweater of hers?
Not a black sweater. I have a stuffed animal dog of hers. I have a box of baby cereal and a little thing of juice. That's all I have
And
at
a
my
can
house.
of formula.
Oh, come on. You're talking about nonsense, Miss McCumber.
When it's $20 a can.
Wick pays for it, though, so.
Just a second. You have those things? You have some
Yes,
formula?
I do.
Fine. Put them in a shopping bag, and we'll make arrangements for those things to come back to her. All right. You want to tell me your version of the events
please.
that happened, and I assume you want to tell me something of your counterclaim.
Yes. Charity did watch my children for 2.5 months. Within that time, we had a couple problems. I asked her to feed my kids nutritionally. I didn't want them fed hot dogs or Pop-Tarts every single day, and that was one of the problems.
No.
And don't interrupt her. She didn't interrupt you.
The reason I knew this is there was a couple occasions where I would always ask, how did the kids eat today? What did they eat? And she would tell me, oh, they had a cheese sandwich and applesauce. Well,
Miss Newby,
the applesauce jar wasn't even open, so she would lie about what she fed them.
Let me tell you this. Finding proper child care for working parents is a very difficult thing, and sometimes you blink and turn the other way if things aren't 100% perfect. But I would assume, Miss Newby, that if you felt as if she was really neglecting your children, you wouldn't have allowed her to watch your children for 2.5 months.
She had promised and said she would do better, that she wouldn't lie anymore, that she would take better care of the children, she would take my kids outside. And as far as her leaving with my kids in the car, that was another problem. She had gone 2 other times with my permission. She had called me at work, told me it was an emergency. I said, okay. Then I talked to her about it, and I told her I did not want it to happen again.
So you didn't give her permission?
She called me at work. She asked me, which she had already taken them, and I told her no. And when I got home, first my husband told me, she brought the little boy over again today. She took him, and then my daughter told me they had been left in the car with the windows rolled up and the doors locked.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Charity McCumber says former client Chastity Newby owes her for babysitting fees and the return of personal belongings.
Go ahead.
My youngest daughter all week had a bad diaper rash, and every night I would come home and...
All week? You mean the last week?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay.
And I would come home, and by the next morning I would have it just about gone, and then the next day I would come home and it was back terribly, bleeding bad. She didn't have permission to take my children. She shouldn't have done it. She asked me. I told her, no, you don't leave children in a car under any circumstances.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Not even for a minute. Not for a minute or two, and it takes more than a minute or two to go in, sign a child out of daycare. Even if it takes 3 or 4 minutes, you don't leave 3 children in a car in 85-degree weather, locked in a car. Not for a minute. But you have a counterclaim. You want to tell me about the counterclaim you have?
My youngest daughter was severely dehydrated. I took her to the doctor Friday, and we tried to bring her back home and get her hydrated at home, which we couldn't do. She was back in the emergency room Saturday being IV'd. She ended up being admitted, and she stayed 3 nights, I believe, for dehydration, and I believe most of it was Charity's care.
It may be, but you understand for a counterclaim such as yours, you need some medical proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
The circumstance of her having been in the plaintiff's care and then being hospitalized doesn't necessarily make a case for a counterclaim. You understand that? Okay. So I'm going to have to dismiss your counterclaim, but I'm going to get to your claim. Ms. McCumber, I find that even if there was an agreement to give you 2 weeks' notice, you breached your contract of care for the defendant's 2 children when you took them without her permission. And even if you had her permission, if you took them on an errand and even for 30 seconds locked them in a car, never, you will never, if they have this information, get a daycare license, because that is such poor judgment to leave a 5-year-old in a car watching 2 infants in a locked car. There is never an emergency that would permit that. And you did it because you didn't want to disturb your baby.
Correct.
Because, well, that's outrageous. That's outrageous. You had an obligation to disturb your baby's sleep, to take all 3 children out of the car, go into the daycare center, pick up your nephew if it was an emergency, come back and hope that your son fell back to sleep. But because you didn't want to inconvenience or disturb your son's sleep, you placed all 3 children at risk. So even if there was an agreement for 2 weeks' notice, I found that you breached your agreement to provide adequate care for the children. However, you have to pay her for the 3 days that she worked for you. Because if you were dissatisfied with her care of the children, and if you felt Monday that your daughter had a diaper rash, and you let her take care of your children on Tuesday, and the diaper rash came back and it was even more aggravated, and then Wednesday you let her do it again, that's poor judgment on your part.
Right.
Right? Sometimes necessity forces you to do that. But that's poor judgment on your part. That doesn't negate the fact that she performed a service for you for 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and you owe her $81, judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. They step out.
I've tried to quit before, and you begged me.
wouldn't let her.
No.
begged her to
So,
come back.
Yep. She didn't take care of him. She didn't feed him. She left him in a car on an 85-degree day. That's neglect.
Yes, case number 138 on the calendar in the matter of Dent versus Bowen. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, folks. Have seats.
All right, this is a strange little tale. Let me see if I can put it in perspective. Miss Dent, the defendant is your son.
Yes.
According to your complaint, there came a time when he wanted to buy a car. You thought it was a good deal. You paid for the car with the understanding that he would pay you back.
Yes.
At the time that the car was purchased, he did not have a driver's license, and the car was not supposed to be driven. It is your claim he did not pay you for the car. To make a long story a little bit shorter, anyway, there came a time when your son was incarcerated. He says that when he was released from jail, that he delivered by messenger a money order. You have not cashed the money order. In the meantime, he says that you made arrangements for the police to be involved. The police impounded the car. There were impound fees of almost $900. So you're suing him for the cost of the car. He's suing you for the cost of the car, plus the impound fees. Is that pretty much the story?
Pretty much.
Now, when was the car purchased?
It was March 3rd was the day that he called me, and it was indeed a good deal.
How much was the car?
When he called me on the phone, it was $100. When I got there, it had gone up to $150 after I had come back from the bank.
$150?
Right.
Is that what you paid for the car?
No, I paid $120.
Well, could somebody explain to me why then you people have filed a lawsuit? You want $1,500 for this car?
Well, that's the value of the car.
Get that out of your head. You paid $120. That's what he was supposed to pay you back. Is that right?
Right.
Did you pay your mother back?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
Show me. Your husband received payment for the car, money order. Why didn't you cash it?
My boyfriend received that. I was
Boyfriend?
Yeah, and I wasn't home at the time.
Do you live there?
Yes.
Why didn't you cash the money order?
Because he didn't make me aware of it. The first I knew that there was a money order there was the day the police showed up to my house when he was claiming auto theft.
You mean you don't speak to your boyfriend?
Well, I work, he goes to school. There are days when we don't have words, yeah.
Well, but now you know about it, so where's the money order?
I have it.
Well, why don't you cash it then? You would have been paid. Now you know that he paid you on time.
Because there's a lot more to the story than that.
Just a minute. One thing at a time. He paid, as a matter of fact, the money order was for $151. So cash the money order and then you've been paid. That was your agreement with him, correct?
Right.
Fine.
He was supposed to pay for that car by April 2nd. It was to stay at my house parked. He had stolen license plates from Mike's Pinto and had put them on this car so he could drive it.
Well, that was terrible.
It was.
You shouldn't have done that.
Your Honor.
You shouldn't have driven the car. You had no license.
That's right.
Right?
Correct.
So, and that breached your agreement with your mother, right?
No, actually, my mother gave me permission to borrow the car.
Listen to me.
I'm sorry.
You have no license. Your mother cannot grant dispensation from state law which says you require a license to drive. So there may be a lot more to it, but bottom line is you lent him money for the car. That's what you were suing him for, not $1,500 because that's not what the car cost. And he's paid you.
So
you got your money back. Cash the money order.
Your Honor.
Now let's get to your counterclaim.
I think it's pertinent to address the issue of this whole reason she kept the car came and took the car from me and kept it. I got out of jail May 30th. The money wasn't originally due until April 2nd. She took the car, knew I didn't get paid until April 1st, took the car because I came forward and confessed that I knew that she asked me to help her plant drugs on my stepfather for a paternity case that she was losing, or felt she was losing.
Excuse me?
There is a custody issue with her and my stepfather.
Yes.
Over my brother.
How old is your brother?
He is 4 years old now.
Go ahead.
She asked me to help her get a stolen gun originally for her boyfriend, supposedly, that couldn't own a gun. And I said, why would he want a stolen gun? If he gets caught with it, it's even worse. So I said, what are you trying to do? She said, her husband, ex-husband, is winning the case. She feels he's wrongly winning. Help me get something that's a felony so I can get him to lose. And I helped her, and I'm ashamed of that.
How did you help her?
I called a friend that could help her get some drugs, and
What kind of drugs?
methamphetamines.
And what'd you do with them?
They were delivered to her house. She paid for them.
Delivered to her house?
Yes. I called her the next day and said, I feel wrong about this. I can't send him to jail. I've gone to jail for stuff that I didn't do because of you. I don't want him to go to jail for this. And I came forward and told him, and she held the car against me, telling my brother, tell Brandon if he changes a statement in court that this is all a lie, that I didn't really do this, then I'll give your car back. And I haven't done so. And I located my car, went there to have it towed out of her witness's yard because I paid her for the money and extra money. I paid her the $25 she filed on me. She wanted me to repay her that. She told me, change your statement, pay me $150, which is $25 more than you actually owe me because I filed on you. It cost me $25, so pay me that.
Filed on you for what?
For the car.
You mean when she filed in small claims court?
Yeah, she wanted me to pay her that $25 back.
The fee?
Yeah, and I called the tow truck, went to go repossess my car out of the yard after it was paid for. The tow truck guy said that she won't let me on her property. I left, came back like 20 minutes later. The tow truck guy was pulling it out, said Stephanie told me to impound it as soon as I left. So they deliberately, out of spite, had it towed when I was there to remove it like 20 minutes before. This is all because I won't lie and say that she didn't do this.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jeannie Dent says her son, Brandon Bowen, owes for the value of a car. Brandon says his mother asked him to frame her ex-husband.
Where's your $120 car?
It is at my house. I got it out of impound. I don't want the money for the car. I just wanted my car back, and I just wanted.
You have it now.
Yeah, I just wanted to pay for the damages. She kept, the lady that had the car, her witness, kept the key. The impound people had to unlock the door and take the ignition out, and all that has to be replaced. I have estimates how much that's going to cost.
Well, how much is it going to cost?
It's going to cost, just for the locks, not including the ignition, all the locks from Chet's Locksmith is going to be $367.
Forget it. Let me explain something to you. Okay. I'm not giving you, sir, 3 times the cost of the car to put in a new lock.
I don't want the process of the car. I just...
but you understand me? The whole car cost $120.
Yeah.
You think that I'm going to order her to pay $300 and how much? $27 to put in a new lock? Forget it.
Okay.
Bottom line is, you got your money, you got your car.
Correct.
You don't like each other anymore.
I love my mom.
Well, it certainly doesn't sound like it to me. What were you in jail for, Mr. Bowen?
She alleged that I lived with her for a short period of time, and I was $50 short of paying half of her rent. She told me her new boyfriend doesn't like me. I had to leave because she had a doctor's appointment. I climbed back through my bedroom window. She came home and called the police, and her and my sister made up a story that we stole a bunch of stuff, which is not true, and I went to jail.
Just a minute. What did you go back to jail for recently in March?
That was to serve the last 4 days of the sentence for climbing through her window.
Were you the complainant on that case?
Yes, I was. He broke into my home.
I was living there at
Which
the
is
time.
just one of many things that have happened.
Why do you think that you would be entitled to $1,500?
Because that new contract was signed after constant badgering. He was calling my work, and every time that I would hang up on him, and he'd call back, he would hang up on my boss. My job was at risk. My boss said, this has got to stop.
That's not true.
And, it was creating a problem for me. He was calling my house. I'd get 7 phone calls,
Child,
5 are hang-ups.
He's your child. He's your child.
Yeah.
And if you bought him a car for $120, and that's what all this fuss is about.
He's my child who's broken into my home, who's stolen money from me.
I don't understand it. Do you ever have drugs delivered to your house?
No, I did not. And I have a couple statements here. He wrote a statement first and says that the person I'm in this battle with, first he writes a statement and says that this person, Richard, is coercing him to write a statement in lieu of furniture. And he comes to me and tells me that, and I said, well, then maybe you should write that down. So he did, and I have that with me. Then he goes to Richard, the other person, and writes the statement. A couple days later, he's got furniture. Then he comes back and writes another statement and says, well, that was not true, and I recant all that, which I have also.
Sounds like you shouldn't get your child involved in your own domestic court situations, especially when the child is an adult child and doesn't have anything to do with the custody battle that you're currently involved in. Neither you or his stepfather should do that. In any event, you got your money, you got your car. Goodbye, good luck, be well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Happy life.
He's a drug addict.
I can't believe that someone that was supposed to be my mother would actually sit here and do this and say things like this.
Enough is enough.
25-year-old outreach coordinator, Monessa Fong, is suing her ex-boyfriend, 33-year-old counselor Albert Chung, for injuries she received during a sexual assault.
Order. All rise. This is case number 112 on the calendar in the matter of Fong versus Chung. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Miss Fong, you tell a very, very aggressive story about actions taken by the defendant, who was then your boyfriend. For some reason, which I'm sure you will explain, you decided that you didn't want to prosecute this case criminally. Is that right?
Yes.
When did this incident take place?
January 27.
Tell me what happened on January 27th.
Defendant Albert Chen, he discovered that I was going to display clothes at a ballroom dance school, and he became very jealous and...
he went with you?
He insisted he had to go. While we were there, he took me into a storage room. He started screaming at me, calling me names. He also attempted to burn my clothes and burn my face using a lighter.
In the storage room?
Yes, he tried to injure me and burn my face.
You managed to get free, according to your complaint, from the storage room. Is that right?
Yes, there are people there and people knocked on the door. He left, and when I tried to leave, he was there behind my car.
And he got into the car with you?
Yes, so I gave him a ride home. While I was driving, he blew anger at me. He punched in the windshield and tried to break the window. He also pulled the handbrake, tried to stop the car, and he yelled at me and tried to grab me out of the car. He said he wanted to die with me. And there are policemen behind us, and they took him out of the car.
And you were actually taken into custody. Is that right, sir?
No, the police took me out because I have a open can of the beer, and then they thought I was drunk. But
Where did they put you, Mr. Chung?
On the street.
They left you just on the street?
On the street.
You left, is that right?
I told the policeman I was very scared. I do not want the defendant to be in my car again. The police officers told me I could file a police report. And
did you do that?
Yes, I went to a local station and filed a police report.
That night?
That night. And an emergency restraining order was granted to me that night.
And what happened when you got home?
When I stepped into my house, it was close to 2 o'clock in the morning. I heard defendant Albert Chen leave a message on my recording. He sounded angrily on the phone. He threatened me to pick up the phone. I did not pick up the phone. 15 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I knew it was him, so I did not answer. And I tried to call 911. And defendant called in my phone at the same time, so I could not dial out. He threatened me to give him $35 for the taxi fare.
For the cab fare?
Yes. I refused, but he threatened that he'll make a scene out of it and wake up my neighbors. So I brought the money out and gave it to him. He forced his way in. Once he's inside, he grabbed me and threw me on the ground. He got on top of me. He twisted my wrist. He injured my spine and my joint. And he attempted to rape me by pulling down and ripping my pants. And I brought my evidence of the ripped and torn pants.
I don't have to see them.
The elastic was broken.
Go ahead.
And I started screaming, and he stopped. For the rest of the night, he abused me by threatening me to drain the toilet cleaner. He forced me to smell lighter gas. He threatened me that if I reported to police, he would kill me.
How did it come about that he left your apartment?
My mother called about 9 o'clock in the morning. The first time he did not let me answer the phone. I said, if I don't answer, my mother will call the police. Then he let me answer the phone. My mother said she was coming over. So then the defendant left. And I called the police and made the second police report. But I told the police officers that I do not want him to be arrested because I was too scared that this guy will retaliate.
Let me see the police report.
This is the first police report. This is the second one. And the bottom is stated that I asked the officer to not arrest the defendant.
Why?
Because I was too terrified.
Then why do you come to court now, Ms. Fong?
Because it's 4 months after, and also putting him in jail is very intense, that he will become very angry and retaliate. I also have the photos of the policeman took on me. It was kicking on my face that was injured. Also on the damaged carpet, on the damaged closet door, and the damaged portable closet, and also the burned clothes. The policeman also took his lighter and burner clothes for evidence.
All right, Mr. Chung, I have a couple of questions for you, sir, because I've read your answer. Now, there is no question that you did, in fact, pull the emergency brake. Is that right?
Yeah, I did pull the emergency brake, the handbrake, yes. I want to mention why I need to pull the handbrake, because I told her to stop the car because I feel we were arguing in her car and she drives pretty dangerous. That's why
I read your story. That's not a reason to pull a handbrake.
Okay.
She hadn't been drinking that night you had. You had an open can of beer, is that right?
Right.
Okay. So the police took you out of the car. And how long did you stand out on the street waiting for a taxi cab?
Around like an hour and a half.
And you were very angry at that time.
Yes, I was angry.
Then why did you go to her house that night?
Because
there's no question that you went back to her house. Is that right?
Right.
Now, you didn't live with her.
I did not live with her.
Then why did you go back to her house after being very angry? Listen to me, Mr. Chung, because I'm very smart. You tried to get out of the car. She wouldn't let you out of the car, according to you. You were so frightened of the way she was driving erratically that you pulled the emergency brake on the car, according to you. Is that right?
Yes.
The police came and rescued you. Is that right?
No,
they rescued you by getting you out of the car. Is that right?
Right, that's getting me out.
That's according to you. They rescued you by getting you out of the car. Now you're rescued. She can't hurt you anymore with the car. So, quiet.
Excuse me.
I'm speaking.
Okay.
So you're standing outside it for an hour and a half, and it's very late at night. About midnight?
And midnight.
And very cold.
And really, really cold.
And you don't live with her.
No.
Then why don't you go home?
Because...
No, look at me. Why don't you go home?
Because I was angry, and I heard she told the police I'm making trouble on her, and I was angry. I just wanted to go to her.
So you were angry.
Right.
So now you arrive at her house after having had a little to drink, being out in the cold for an hour and a half, and you're very angry. And what do you do when you get to the house, Mr. Chung?
I want to talk to her.
What do you do? Did you call her and tell her you wanted $35 for a cab?
Oh, I did.
She gave you the $35 for the cab. Is that right?
Right.
Was the cab waiting for you?
They kept waiting for me.
And then you went back upstairs.
Right.
Why did you go back to her apartment?
I was angry, and I know I was stupid. I go back to her house.
So what did you do to her when you got to the apartment?
I argued with her.
Tell me how you argued with her,
Okay.
sir.
I told her, how come she just ignoring me? And when the police come, she told the police she just don't know me, something like that, just like her, just like friend.
Are you telling me, sir, that you didn't put your hands on her?
Oh, I never put my hand on her.
No, he's lying.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Manessa Fong says ex-boyfriend Albert Chung injured her during a sexual assault. Manessa says Albert terrorized her over the course of 24 hours.
How long did you stay there that evening?
All night.
Did she ask you to leave?
She never asked me to leave.
That's a lot of baloney, sir. That's baloney. Because even if you were only arguing with her verbally, she would have asked you to leave.
She didn't ask me to leave. She let me sleep in her living room at the floor. She told me, because I'm legally blind, I'm visually impaired, I cannot drive, and it was late, around like 2 o'clock, and she let me sleep in her living room, and next morning she woke me up, and then I left. But we were arguing for a long time.
Right.
Right.
Why do you believe that Miss Fong would have made 2 police reports if you had not threatened her?
Because when the argument, by the time, my language was very strong and insulting her, and she was angry. And I just want to make sure you understand, I didn't do anything physically.
I don't believe that, sir.
her,
I believe that you did something physically to her. I believe that you did. I believe that you went there that night and you were very, very angry.
Right.
And when you are very, very angry, based upon something that you did earlier that evening, you, for whatever reason, wanted her to stop the car, and you pulled the emergency brake up. You could see good enough to pull up the emergency brake.
I don't need to see, I can feel it.
Just like you can feel her face. You pulled up the emergency brake, which means, Mr. Chung, that you have a temper. And what she did later on that evening, which was, according to you, felt sorry for you and let you sleep on the floor of her apartment, that doesn't sound like the kind of woman who would not let you out of a car if you wanted to get out of the car. So you got a temper. You've got a temper.
What's
and I
temper
believe
mean?
that you punched the windshield on the car. Didn't break it, but I believe that you punched it.
I did.
Sure, because you have a temper. And that was before you were standing outside for an hour and a half in the cold at 1 o'clock in the morning. That was before. After you were really mad because she was ignoring you in the ballroom. Right? Good. You better stay away from her because, you see this judge? You may get some very nice judge if you go near her again. You may get somebody who will be very sympathetic with the fact that you tell them that you can't see, you're legally blind, you're a poor soul, all right? You can't put your hands on anybody. Never. In anger. And get away with it. And I'm just very sorry that she didn't follow through. But I tell you something else. If you ever go near her again, ever, it is very possible that you're going to get unlucky and get somebody just like me. Do you understand? And if you get somebody just like me, you're going to go to jail. And they don't care what your handicaps are. Do you understand?
Yes.
Keep your hands to yourself and stay far away from her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000 as requested. Stay away from her.
Thank you, Your
Others
Honor.
are excused. You may step out.
I was terrified. The defendant was threatening me if I arrest him and put him in jail, he would kill me and my family.
I didn't do it, and if I did it, after the police did the full investigation, I already been in the jail.
Case 2067, Garcia versus Taryn. All parties, please step forward.
Amari Garcia is suing fellow motorist April Taryn for damages from a motorcycle accident.
This is a case that's about an automobile-motorcycle collision. Each one of you claims that the other is responsible for the collision. Miss Garcia, you were riding the motorcycle?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were in your car?
Yes.
Okay. And this happened on what date?
March 21st, 2022, around 3 p.m.
In what state?
California.
In the state of California, are you required to have insurance on a motorcycle?
Yes, Your Honor.
Just liability?
Liability if it's paid for in full, correct. Yes, Your Honor.
And were you insured on that date?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you were driving a car?
Yes.
And was your car insured on March 21st, 2022?
Not at the time.
So the answer is no?
No.
Did you have a valid driver's license on March 21st, 2022?
Yes.
From what state?
California.
What kind of car were you driving?
A 2011 Nissan Sentra.
Was it a new car for you, or did you have it for a while?
It's a new car. I purchased it 3 weeks prior to the incident.
And if you bought it 3 weeks before, how come you didn't have liability insurance?
I was looking for insurance, and plus, at the time, I hadn't received my paperwork. It was still in the other person's name at the used car dealership that I bought it from. Your Honor. I hadn't.
You know you're not supposed to be driving a car, Miss Taryn, without insurance.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay. You wanted to say something?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I have proof that April Taryn purchased her vehicle February 8th, 2022. She drove uninsured for 41 days, and it was not from a lot. It was from someone off the street. I have the proof for that.
I'd like to see it.
Yes. Oh, thank you. For $2,050.
Well, this car that you registered, the selling price was $2,050, according to this.
No, it wasn't. And
well, I'm going to show you vehicle and transfer law. This is 2011 Sentra, and it was signed, but it's LLC. That's his company.
Okay.
So it wasn't off the street, but it said the selling price was $2,000. That's what this says.
I don't have my paperwork in my car.
I want to show this to her. I just want to get some basic facts first, and then I'm going to go to the incident.
But that's to, and...
No, the person, the seller.
And you know, I have my paperwork in my car.
Yeah, but you understand that that's what it's...
I understand what you said because it's right there.
That's...
Yes.
Okay, we have a diagram. This happened on March 21st, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You had no insurance, and you were traveling in the bike lane.
No, that is not true. I shared the lane of the car on the right. I would never go into a bike lane that is disrespectful to the road and riders.
Just a second. Are you allowed to share a lane with a car and a motorcycle?
That is your right, yes.
I know Foothill. Is that where you were?
Yes, Your Honor.
And at a certain time during the day, Foothill becomes very trafficked.
Yes.
And the cars sometimes get stopped because there's a light, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go over to there, Miss Garcia, and show me, please, where you were positioned before you say that you were traveling in the same lane as a car.
Your Honor, I was directly behind this car.
Okay.
Directly behind.
You were directly behind that car.
Yes.
And that car was stopped.
They were slowing to a stop.
No, they were stopped because they had to have been stopped because that's why you went around him.
They were slowing to a stop. By the time I got around here, they were stopped. I didn't want to veer into here. I was slowing down. I was around 25 miles per hour. This lane at the time was too close. So I shared this lane on this side.
Miss Garcia, I got it, Miss Garcia. You want me to appreciate the fact that you wanted to get around the stopped car and you wanted to continue to go straight, correct? You weren't turning. You wanted to go straight.
I was going straight, correct.
And so you want me to picture in this tiny mind of mine that instead of going into a perfectly clear bike lane, you inched your way at 25 miles an hour in the same lane as a stopped car.
Yes.
But
this diagram,
you know, I find that hard to believe, Miss Garcia.
Your
I
Honor,
really find that hard to believe. You may be in the right with regard to this, but I find it hard to believe.
The roads are very wide. I have the actual police photo document of that.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, Your Honor. Right here.
And I'd like to see the police report as well. Is there a police report?
It's attached to this.
Fine. Because as you were traveling straight, the defendant was making a left turn. She was making a left turn because the two cars there were stopped, and those were the only two traffic lanes there. Now, I don't know whether she could see whether it's a motorcycle or a bicycle traveling in the bike lane, but what happened was she was making a left turn. According to this, you went into her passenger side. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So where is the motorcycle now?
I no longer have it. The towing company, they sold it.
What are you driving around in now?
1995 Chevy Baville.
Atta girl!
Amari Garcia is accusing fellow motorist April Taryn of damaging her motorcycle. April claims Amari was illegally driving in the bike lane.
Who was in the car with you, Miss Taryn?
My son and his girlfriend.
One of them had an injury.
Yes. My son's girlfriend, she was in the driver's passenger side. And while I was turning into the lane, I just felt a crash and saw glass going into my car. And then she was cut.
Okay. And you had an injury to your knee?
Yes, I have several injuries. And I have photos as well.
You understand, Miss Taryn, that the police interviewed witnesses. The witnesses were in the stopped cars.
Yes.
And at the end of all of their interviewing process, they determined that you were the cause of the collision. That's what it says.
And I don't...
It says that you caused the collision by violating Vehicle and Traffic Law 21-8001, failure to yield when making a left turn. I determined the cause based upon the parties involved and the physical evidence. That's what the police determined. Okay, well, then that's an easy, based upon the police report, because each of you were going to tell two different stories about what happened that day. Police were there, they looked at the physical evidence, they looked at the injuries, they looked at the damage to the roadway, they interviewed independent witnesses, and that was their determination.
I understand, Judge, but the police report had some inconsistencies where, like, she was driving in the bicycle lane, which is against the law. And what I was doing, I was making the left turn, as you know. And these two front cars, which one of them was a witness.
Yes, that car paused to let you make a left turn.
Yes, both lanes. And I was...
No, you said both lanes.
Both lanes paused.
Well, that's what you say.
Yes.
That's what you say. That's not what this says.
See, but they both did. And as I was
But I'm just telling you.
No, I know.
Yeah,
that's what
I'm just telling you. That's not what this is.
Exactly.
That's what you say. There was nothing that prevented those two cars from going.
Exactly.
There wasn't a traffic light, there wasn't a stoplight at that spot.
Yes.
And there was heavy traffic.
Yes.
So it's your responsibility to make sure if you're making a left turn that you have to yield to all oncoming traffic.
And
so the fact that you didn't see her is really not relevant. And as long as you understand that this police report supports Miss Garcia's claim that you caused this accident by making a left turn when you shouldn't have been making a left turn. That's what this says. And that, you know, at the end of the day, it's an accident. That's why it's not called an on purpose. It's called an accident. Neither one of you anticipated it. As far as I'm concerned, Ms. Garcia, you're entitled to be compensated, but I'm going to suggest this to you. If I'm driving a motorcycle, which I would never do, just for me, I think it's wacky. I think there are enough crazy people driving around that I like about 2,000 pounds of steel around me so that if somebody who is not paying attention and there's an accident, I like to be safe. My first car when I was 17, all my friends were getting these cute little cars, you know, that were convertibles, and my father bought me a 15-year-old blue and white Cadillac sedan. It was so embarrassing to drive around in that car. It was a boat. Oh, come on. Everybody else is getting these cute little Corvettes, even if they're used ones. And my father, who loved me a lot, said to me, sweetheart, if you get into the accident, I want you to come out unscathed. And this ensures that you got a shot if you get into an accident. And I feel better. So I'm just telling you, if you're going to drive a motorcycle, don't take shortcuts. I know this place on Foothill, and I know what happened here. You know, you wanted to go, there was no reason why you couldn't. That's why you drive a motorcycle, because you can get into tight places. But you look like an intelligent young woman.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Don't take chances. That was a chance. It could have been a lot worse. What was the damage to your motorcycle?
I have pictures. Would you like to see them, Your Honor?
I would.
I did look it up. Lane splitting motorcycles is legal in California, based on the California Highway Patrol.
Okay, I know. I see the pictures. So where is the motorcycle now?
I no longer have it. The towing company, they sold it. They sold it for $70 they claim, and I got hit with collections afterwards. I have the bill for that if you'd like to see that.
How much did you pay for it?
$6,407.
Do you have the bill?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
For my motorcycle, what I paid for, correct?
Yes, what you paid for it. What are you driving around in now?
A 1995 Chevy Baville.
Atta girl! Atta girl. Okay. I'm giving you the value of the motorcycle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Which is $6,407. I'm not splitting whose fault this was, actually, but I'm not awarding you any punitive damages for her. She had injuries in her car. You were slightly injured, but both of you seem fine now. I don't think that you were careful enough when you were going straight and around that car that was stopped. But the defendant didn't have insurance, and she was cited by the police for violation of a traffic law. So I'm giving you the cost of your motorcycle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
So I actually ended up, after the car had made impact with me, the bike went that way, I went up into the air.
It was really frightening.
I hit the ground, I hit on my elbow.
I've never experienced that before.
I was really scared. I thought, like, oh, this is it, my legs are out.
And like I said, I was being cautious, and
thankfully I wasn't.
But it ended up in that kind of situation.
Definitely more safely as far as better gear, and, you know, like she said, don't take a shortcut or anything of that sort.
So I looked up lane splitting, and in California, it's one of the few states that allows it for motorcyclists. It does say inexperienced riders shouldn't attempt it because, like we see, it's very easy to get hit or for someone not to see you if you're splitting between lanes, but it is legal, so she wasn't in the wrong by lane splitting, but I think it was a sticky situation. You're behind a car, someone's turning.
What does it say if you're injured?
It does say on the Highway Patrol website that you're splitting at your own risk, so any injuries that happen are at your own risk.
So they say if you are lane splitting, it's not illegal, but if you have injuries as a result of an accident, if you're lane splitting, you're responsible for your own injuries.
It doesn't say it in a legal term that I could really stick to, but it says it's risky. We're acknowledging that it's risky. you have to assume the risk of lane splitting if that's what you choose to do.
Case 2053, Johnson versus Blue. All parties, please come forward.
Rochelle Johnson is suing her sister-in-law, Monique Blue, and her brother, Antonio Blue, for unpaid rent and window blinds.
Ms. Johnson, the defendant is your brother.
That is correct.
And his co-defendant, your brother's wife. You had a home that was located in what state?
California.
Several years ago, you decided to move out of state, I think to Arizona?
Yes.
And at that time, you discussed with your brother and his wife renting your home. You entered into a lease with them. Was it a 2-year lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And it was a written lease?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that lease?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
That's a 2-year, and I also have a 6-month.
No,
want the 6. Okay.
Just the first lease first, because I'm old and I can only absorb a certain amount of facts at one time. It's a pretty straightforward lease. It's a lease for 24 months starting the 1st of July 2019 and terminating on July 1st, 2021. $1,600 a month rent, there's a small security deposit, and all the other terms and conditions are rather standard. Your complaint says that when you went to the state of Arizona, ultimately you ascertained that your health coverage, your lifetime health coverage, was not covered in the state of Arizona. You decided you wanted to move back to California. You don't even have to give a reason why you want to move back to California. You can move back to California into your house on July 1st, 2021. You understand that?
Yes.
Great. And you came back to California on what date?
I don't recall the exact date, but I also extended a 6-month.
I understand. When did you come back to California? In March. That's what you said here. I think in March.
Okay, right now I don't recall.
I think in March of 2022 is when you ultimately came back because they vacated sometime the beginning of March.
No. I came back prior to that. I stayed with my son for a year until
the lease was up?
Yes, ma'am.
Your son lives in California?
Yes, Beaumont, California.
Now, I'd like to see the extension of the lease for 6 months. Okay, so you acknowledge, Mr. and Mrs. Blue, that the 6-month extension that you both signed terminated on December 31st.
Yes.
Did you vacate the house on December 31st?
No, we hadn't found a place yet.
That's not her problem. That would be your problem. Did she give you permission to stay beyond December 31st? On what date, sir, did you close on that property?
I can't remember offhand.
We're not talking about so long ago.
February 7th is listed as the closing date.
That sound familiar? That's what it says.
Yes.
Well, then you had 3 weeks to move in.
Rochelle Johnson claims her sister-in-law, Monique Blue, and her brother, Antonio Blue, owe for unpaid rent and window blinds. Monique and Antonio are countersuing for harassment and invasion of privacy.
Okay. Did she give you permission to stay beyond December 31st?
No.
So you stayed beyond December 31st. Were you there in January?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer. Yes. Were you there in February?
Yes.
Were you there on March 1st?
Yes.
On March 2nd?
Yes.
On March 3rd?
Yes.
On what day in March did you move out?
March 5th.
Did you pay rent in the month of January?
No.
February?
No.
March?
No.
Okay, that's what she's suing for.
Right.
Well, you have a defense for not paying rent for those 3 months, which you clearly occupied her premises. Who wants to tell me why you didn't pay rent?
She told us in the beginning we were supposed to buy the house. We did numerous renovations to our house. We cleaned it up. And when we first moved in July 1st, it wasn't move-in ready.
I don't care. You lived there. Not only did you live there, you executed a second lease for another 6 months. You lived there from the beginning of the lease up until March 5th, which is 3 months beyond when you were supposed to be there. I'm waiting for a defense and not paying rent.
Yes. For July 2019, when we first moved in, the house was hideous. She had stuff in every room. We weren't able to move our stuff in.
Did you live there?
Yes, we had nowhere else to go.
I don't care. You had a choice. If the house wasn't in move-in condition, you break your lease, but you don't say at the end of the lease, by the way, when we were there 2.5 years ago, the house wasn't ready for us to move in. It wasn't in condition that we liked. We lived there anyway. So that's not an excuse for not paying rent at the other end. Anything else?
Yeah. She offered to give us the last month rent that we were there for free.
The last month?
The last month rent. I have the papers.
Well, I'd like to take a look at that, but you owe 3 months.
3 months? We moved off March 5th.
I don't care. You were there March 1st. That's the month.
Okay.
Did you indicate to them that you would give them a month off the rent? Okay.
No, ma'am.
She says that you did.
I would like to see your evidence as well.
No, just shh. No, she agreed to waive the final month's rent for the period of April 1st, 2022 to May 2nd, 2022. You were gone in March.
Right.
And your lease, for some reason, she agreed to waive rent for a month that you weren't there. She didn't waive January, February, or March. She agreed to waive it April 1, 2022 to May 2nd, 2022. That's no evidence that she waived any rent.
We moved out in March 5th. Why do we still owe her for March?
Because you were there in March.
Okay.
If she was using the premises as a rental premises and you were leaving at the end of February, then she would have been able to rent her premises beginning March 1st. You don't move out until March 5th. The beginning of March. That means she needs a couple of days, or any landlord would need a couple of days to put the place in order and re-rent it. They wouldn't be able to re-rent until April. So you were there. Is there any reason you stayed until March 5th instead of... Just a second. You didn't let me finish the question. Is there any reason why you didn't move out the last day in February and instead stayed into March?
Because our house wasn't ready yet.
What do you mean it wasn't ready?
We wasn't ready to move in there yet.
What was wrong with it? Where did you move?
Victorville, California.
Okay. To what kind of property?
We bought a house.
Okay. When did you buy the house? What month?
We did close January something.
So you bought the house in January.
Mm-hmm.
When you inspected the house that you bought, did you buy it furnished or unfurnished?
Unfurnished.
Did you have furniture in the plaintiff's house?
Yes.
You'll give her the address so she can check.
Yes.
Great. Sarah, just look it up for me, please. On what date did you close on that property?
February?
No, don't.
February.
On what date, sir, did you close on that property? It's probably in the record.
I can't remember offhand.
We're not talking about so long ago. Is there an address?
February 7th is listed as the closing date.
2/7. So the house became yours on February 7th. That sound familiar? That's what it says.
Yes.
Well, then you had 3 weeks to move in, to get it ready.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
All right. Fine. So you owe her 3 months' rent at $1,600 a month.
What about the renovations we did to our house?
Who cares? I live in a place for a couple of years, and I make changes to the place that I find make it more comfortable. There's nothing in this lease agreement that says that she has to reimburse you for things that she did, and this is not a rent-to-buy agreement. This is a straight tenancy agreement.
We were supposed to buy her house.
There are agreements that are rent-to-buy that list what the rental is and what the ultimate purchase price will be, and whether or not you can deduct the rent that you've paid or a percentage of it from the total purchase price, or whether you cannot. This is a straight rental agreement. So if you made improvements in the house, if you painted it, if you put in new carpeting to make it more comfortable for yourself, you don't get reimbursed for that because there's nothing in your lease that requires her to reimburse you for any improvements that you make in the house. You're bound by the four corners of the contract that you signed.
Well, what about how the conditions that we moved in?
Well,
that she doesn't.
Yes. By living there for 2.5 years, without, I assume, unless you can show me, without, I assume, a written complaint to her. Do you have that? Do you have a written complaint? No. I asked you, sir.
I have pictures.
$4,800. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you. You count the claims dismissed. It's ridiculous.
My mother's deceased, and it would actually hurt my mother to see us in court today. And that's my only regret, that I had to do that.
We're done.
The bottom line is, I am back in my house.
So I had a thought about that case because going through college, I think the first time I saw a lease was my sophomore year or so when I moved off campus. And my dad, luckily enough, was there to help me look over it and sort of teach me what a lease was, what the different sections meant, what I should really be looking out for. So in my mind, it would make sense for colleges to offer a basic life skills course to teach young incoming freshmen how to read a lease, how to negotiate on your behalf.
Did they offer that class at all to undergraduates?
It seems specified to business students or closed off to certain majors. Just to have some guidance would have been, I think, really helpful.
I think so.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice are suing their former employee, Trevor McCormick, for breaking his lease, the cost of a phone, as well as a personal loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Case number 2031, Snyder Alice versus McCormick.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Snyder, you own a farm,
I do,
and this is your girlfriend.
yes.
How long has she been your girlfriend?
5
years tomorrow.
You say that as if 5 years tomorrow, and?
And I'm just saying, it's 5 years.
5 years tomorrow.
Yeah.
And?
And the rest of our lives.
Okay, good. He know that?
No, he's learning.
He's learning. Terrific. Okay, this is what I'm gathering from the bare bones of the story. Mr. McCormick was dating an employee of yours.
Correct.
What was that employee's name?
Natasha.
When were you dating the lovely Natasha?
We weren't really dating. We were an acquaintance.
Where was Natasha living?
She was living, when we first met, she was living at a friend's house, and she was working for Adam as an employee at a restaurant.
And when was that? Month and year?
I'd say around September of last year.
September 2021.
Yes.
And?
And we decided to move out because Adam had
Well, so you were living with Natasha at the friend's house?
Yes.
Where had you been living before?
My mom's.
So you went from mom's house to Natasha and a
Yes.
friend's house?
Yes.
Okay. And then where did you go?
Then we moved into the trailer right next to Adam that he owned.
Who had a discussion with Mr. Snyder about potentially renting the trailer so you would have a
Natasha.
place to live? And what kind of rent were you paying?
I believe it was $800.
And you moved into the trailer when?
Around November.
Of 2021.
Yes.
And you lived in the trailer till when?
About March.
March of 2022.
Yes.
In March, what happened?
Me and Natasha weren't getting along. I just had enough.
There was never a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
No.
She was just a friend. Did you know that?
That is not true.
So what did you do?
I asked Adam if I could move into the ranch house. There was nobody living there at the time.
Where were you living?
I live at my home with Julie.
Okay, and there's a ranch house on the farm.
I have a ranch house on a separate piece of property.
Close by to the farm?
Yes, 3 miles.
That was vacant.
Correct.
Okay, so you asked to rent it?
Yes.
Who was going to rent it?
I was.
Just you?
Yes, just me.
How much was the rent?
It was $800.
And this was in March?
Yes.
Prior to March of 2022, what kind of work were you doing?
I was working at a factory.
How long did you work there?
About a month.
What month?
March.
Prior to March, where were you working?
On Adam's farm.
From when to when?
I'd say about December until March.
Well, in December to March, you were living in the trailer.
Yes.
Okay. And you were living with the lovely Natasha.
Correct.
And Natasha, I assume, was contributing to the rent.
Yes.
And how much were you contributing to the rent? Is not an answer. How much were you contributing to the rent from December to March of
Couple hundred.
2021?
Couple
What?
hundred a month.
That's not an answer. A couple of hundred a month. How much do you pay for rent? $316 a month and 24 cents. How much does it cost to have your garbage picked up? $59.12. Do you understand? Certain things
Yes.
change. What was your electric bill last year? I don't remember. What was your bill last month? I don't remember.
$300, ma'am.
You see? But I mean, a couple is two.
Yes.
Who did you pay that to?
Natasha.
Well, I can't tell whether you pay that to Natasha or not. Did you ever discuss rent with Mr. Snyder?
No.
Even in the trailer?
Even in the trailer.
So that was all done through Natasha?
Correct.
Okay. But according to you, you worked someplace in March, but before that you worked on the farm.
Yes.
From when to when? December to March?
Yes.
Beginning, middle, or the end of December?
The middle, the 16th.
Is that about right?
If you want to call
Just
helping...
helping whatever?
Yes.
December 16th. Okay. And from December 16th, you did whatever work it was on the farm until March?
Yes.
March what?
Till I moved out.
No, March what? Beginning, middle, and...
28th.
And what was the rent in the ranch house? The ranch house must have been nicer than the trailer you were living in.
$800.
You moved in April?
Yes.
How much money did you give him?
$900.
Some was to go towards security?
I was in between jobs, and that's what I had, so we made an agreement that I'd pay $900 the week of, and then so on and so on. I don't have
What's the
the
so on
copy.
and so on?
I don't have the copy of the lease. He never gave me it.
Did you sign a lease?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
I have it right here. In the back of the contract, you'll see where we wrote down he would pay $900
Just a second.
on the 8th.
Okay, so the security deposit was supposed to be $1,200. You paid $8.
Paid $9.
The security deposit was $12, and you paid $9 of security deposit?
I paid $9 total, ma'am.
Well, how many months did you live there?
Not even one.
When did you move out?
April 24th, I moved out.
Is that correct?
That's close, yes.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when he moved out because he didn't tell me he was moving out. He just locked the door.
Okay.
And wouldn't
but it was in
return
April.
messages.
Okay. And you had $900.
He paid $900.
And the rent on the property was supposed to be
$800 per month.
$800 monthly.
Yes,
So right now, you've been paid for the month that he lived there.
correct.
Prior to his moving in there, who was living there?
Nobody.
So it wasn't rented.
Nope.
In what year was it last rented?
2021.
When?
Oh, no, it was in February. We did an eviction on it.
So somebody lived there and didn't pay rent.
Correct.
Is that the first person who came and didn't pay rent?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Yeah, it's
And
lousy
Trevor
to
was
be a
there, and
landlord.
he helped us do the
Yeah.
eviction on that,
It's-
so he knew how it worked.
Hmm?
Trevor was there. He helped us do the eviction because we had to have court officers there.
To get him out because they weren't paying rent. So
he knows how it works.
Well, he may know how it works, but he did, in fact, give you $900,
He did.
and he lived there for less than a month.
That's right.
So that's sort of square. I know you'd like him to be responsible for his lease, but you have your house back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me about this phone that you say he owes you for.
Okay.
By the way, where's your phone?
I have my phone that I paid for. Their phone that I put a down payment for is at my house.
Why?
I didn't know I had to bring it.
Well, it was just purchased within the last year.
Yeah.
Why do you have two phones? You have no
Because,
job. Why do you have two phones?
I have a job.
Oh, good.
I bought this outright because he shut the other phone off.
Oh, well, where is the phone?
The phone's at my house.
What kind of phone is it?
It's an iPhone 13.
You want it back?
I'd like him to just pay for it like the agreement was, but
He gets back his phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Even though I
Wait,
paid
just
it
a
down.
second. Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in Highland.
Where is that?
It's by Detroit, Michigan.
Who else lives at home?
My girlfriend,
What's her name?
Ariel.
Where is she?
She is currently working right now.
Does she know where the phone is?
Yes.
Okay. They're going to give you an envelope in the clerk's office back here. You're going to tell Ariel to put his phone carefully packed and mail it to him. FedEx, UPS, the fastest way it will get there. Then you get your phone back. Go. What's next?
I have text messages here from Trevor. This will show where, when he was dating Natasha, they had agreed that they would pay for their phones up front so that I would put them on my business plan. I told them I would only do that if they paid for the phones up front, because when I took Trevor to Verizon, I said, if they don't pay for their phone bill, as long as they've paid for these phones in full, I can shut them off and it will cost my business no money, correct?
Hmm?
And the lady said, that is right. I said, okay, then we can do it. So we added them to the bill, to the business plan. And here, where I text him, I said, you and Natasha told me you were paying for the phone in cash. That's why I allowed you on my business plan. Now I found out that you did not pay for the phones up front, because when we were in there, he and Natasha had the cash.
Did you assure Mr. Snyder that you were going to pay for the phone?
I had no idea I was even going to get a phone until Natasha said, go with Adam and go pick up our phones. That's all I heard, and that's what I did.
Well,
I didn't know
can't
about
say
the
that to
cash.
me because the lovely Natasha isn't here either. Sir, you're going to get your phone back. Is it one phone or more?
We recovered the second one from
Well, you're going to recover this one too. You recovered the second one.
Yeah.
Second one was Natasha's?
Correct.
Great, we're going to recover this one too. What's next? Changing lock fees, and you want a personal loan. Okay. So once he moved out, according to you, he moved out totally, and you didn't even know he moved out, so I don't know why the locks were changed.
The lock did not need changed. I did tell the court that we were going to have to change the locks because the key was missing. I didn't know that while I was away on storm, Julie had gone in to check to make sure the water wasn't running, and she found the key on the table. And that is
Okay,
what Trevor
great.
said.
So we're going to eliminate that. And now we're going to go to the small loan that you say that you made to the defendant.
So Natasha came over, guys. He said she worked at.
Don't tell me what Natasha asked you. That's all hearsay. I need to know what conversations you had with the defendant.
Okay, but she came over
But you can't tell me what she said, you see.
Okay. So
And
anyway,
if you made a contract, if you made a contract with Natasha for a loan of money, even if it went for his benefit, do you understand? Okay. Even if it went for his benefit, he's not responsible. If Natasha says, I want you to give, what's your first name?
Trevor.
Trevor, a loan to fix his car, and you say, okay, you need somebody to pay you back. Natasha has to say, I'll pay you back. However, you can't tell me that.
I was not in the house at the time when they were discussing that.
Well, you said you went into the house.
I came to pick Natasha up.
I don't want you to make yourself appear any more stupid. Do you understand? Try not to do that.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice claim their former employee, Trevor McCormick, owes for the cost of a phone and a personal loan. Trevor is countersuing for unpaid wages.
Now, did you ever have a conversation with Trevor about money?
I do. I have a text message telling him.
No, tell me, not a text message.
The conversation was not verbal.
It was by text message?
Correct.
Okay, so I'd like to see text message from him.
Yep. This has from Trevor. This is his number.
Okay. May I see it, please?
He did pay me $100 in cash.
Okay, so it's clear from this text exchange, sir, that you borrowed a certain amount of money from the plaintiff.
I did not borrow Natasha.
Yes, well, it acknowledges it here because you say, I start that job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first check. It was for me, and I will pay it. That's what you wrote. Do you understand? Do you want to look at it?
No.
You don't want to look at it. You're not questioning me, so it's clear from this that you borrowed money from Miss Ailes.
I personally did not. I didn't even know what was going on.
Who wrote this? I start that job on the 14th.
That was me.
Well, then, that's in response to her text message to you that says, hello, Trevor. I heard you were moving out and I need that paid by the end of the month. I have been very patient as no attempt has been made on this. Thank you. And you immediately wrote back to her and said, I start that job on the 14th and I will pay you out of my first paycheck. That's what you said to her.
Yes, ma'am.
You mean, yes, ma'am. Now, I'm going to get back and ask you the question I think I asked before. What was the loan for?
I broke down in Oklahoma.
And what month and year was that?
About September of last year.
September of 2021 is just about when you started dating Natasha.
Correct.
Okay, so your car broke down in Oklahoma. And?
And it had to get fixed.
And?
So I rode the Greyhound bus back up to Michigan and waited until my car got fixed, which took months.
I'm asking you, what was the loan for?
To go back down and get my car.
So it was $670 that you borrowed from her, and I want to know how it was that you got the money.
I came in to Julie's house, and Natasha said, you're going to Oklahoma to pick up your car, because I didn't have any money right then and there, but I wasn't going to ask anybody.
Just a second. I don't care what you were going to do, what you didn't do, what you thought about doing. You went into the house that the plaintiffs share.
Mm-hmm.
Not uh-huh. Uh-huh is not an answer. The answer is yes. The lovely Natasha was there.
Yes.
With Julie.
Yes.
What did you say and what did Julie say to you? Just Julie.
Julie didn't really say anything. She said, don't tell Adam about the money.
Okay, so she said she would give you money.
Yes.
And she knew exactly how much you needed.
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
No.
Okay. When she gave you the money, did she give it to you in check or cash?
She didn't give me no money. She gave Natasha the money.
Okay, how much was it?
$700, around there.
And after it was given to you by Natasha, but you were all in the same room together.
I was not in the house at the time when they were discussing that.
Well, you said you went into the house.
I came to pick Natasha up. Yes.
I don't want you to make yourself appear any more stupid. Do you understand?
Yes.
Try not to do that. You were in the house with Julie and Natasha at some point, and at some point money was discussed.
No.
Was money discussed in front of him?
No, it was not.
Okay, so your loan was not with him. Do you understand?
Yes.
Unless he ratifies the loan subsequently. Is that correct?
Correct.
This is from my person who just studied for the bar, and I have to go back in my mind 50 years. If my memory is correct,
If you don't make a loan directly with someone, they cannot be obligated to repay that money. However, if they subsequently get use of that money and subsequently agree to repay you, they have ratified that contract.
Correct. You just have to decide if that's a ratification.
Yeah. What would be your take on that? Take a look at it very carefully. What would be your take?
It was for me, I will pay it. Seems pretty close to textbook ratification.
Yeah, I would say so. I start a job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first paycheck.
I just wanted to keep the peace because she was down my throat.
This woman was down your throat?
Yes.
She may have been annoyed, very annoyed, but she wasn't down your throat. She was the one who volunteered to give you money in your time of need. How could she be down your throat? Okay. So far you paid her back $100. Is that what he paid you back? So he owes you $600. Okay. So far, Mr. Snyder, I'm not with you on it, on the rent.
Okay.
I'm not with you on the lock change fees. I am with you on the phone, which you're going to get back. He's going to get that back within 5 days. Otherwise, he's going to have difficulty.
Here from the day that he did the phone purchases, instead of paying for the phones up front, he also added a bunch of other cordless phone chargers and everything else to the bill.
How much were the extras?
Totally, there's 2,000.
No. I don't want them total. Total, you're going to get the phone back. What were the extras that he charged onto the phone?
There is a $41.99.
$41.99.
There is a $20.99.
Okay. You know that I went to 7 years of postgraduate school for this. Keep going.
$29.99.
7 years. They were very hard years. I also took the bar exam. Keep going. $29.99.
$17.99.
Oh, it's getting worse. Not better for you, Mr. Snyder.
And $11.99.
Worse, a lot worse.
$122.95.
Okay. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
Working on the farm.
Okay. Tell me about that. From when to when did you work on the farm?
November to the end of March.
And what were you doing between November and March?
I was feeding cattle when Adam was on storm, watering them.
To March what? The end of March?
Yes, right.
I thought you worked at a factory.
I did both.
Well, you can't do both. You work at a factory. I asked you if you had a job. You said, I work at a factory.
I did do both.
Well, now I need the name of the factory and find out what your shift was.
I was,
And you worked during the day.
Yes.
From when to when?
From
Time.
6 to 6.
Well.
I had...
Just a second. Mr. McCormick, if you work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., it is not possible to work a full-time job for the plaintiff as well.
I had a schedule of three on, 2 off.
Okay. We're making it up as we're going along. Did you have a financial arrangement with him for putting out these bales of hay?
We never did. Although he did get paid for everything he did until the last day that he worked for me, where we were tearing apart a building.
That's incorrect.
Oh, just don't speak.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice have accused their former employee, Trevor McCormick, of refusing to pay the cost of a phone and the balance of a loan. Trevor claims he was not paid for the work he did on their farm.
Now, did he work for you?
It would be very minimal. He would put hay bales out, which would take 10 minutes.
He would put what?
Hay bales out for the cattle.
Hay bales?
Yes.
At approximately what time of day? Because I'm not getting...
He could come and do it when he got home from work.
Okay. And did you have a financial arrangement with him for putting out these bales of hay?
We never did.
Okay. Is there any reason why you never did?
Because he didn't do it very often, and he said he was just happy to help, although he did get paid for everything he did until the last day that he worked for me, where we were tearing apart a building.
So he got paid when he worked for you?
He did.
That's incorrect.
Oh, just don't speak. From when to when?
When he helped me, it was very minimal. It would be...
No, I'm not talking about the hay. You said he did, in fact, work for me.
He did.
I want to know, but not on the farm. He worked someplace else.
He helped on another piece of farmland that I have.
Okay.
Where a barn had fallen down. We were tearing the steel off, and he worked 3 hours that morning.
3 hours what morning?
The last day that he was there, it would have been...
So that's in March?
Early, I would say the second week of March.
Okay. When was the first time he worked there?
I would say probably in January.
And he was working at this other plant from 6 to 6 in March. according to him. So he did some work for you in the first month, which was January.
Yeah, if he helped me, it might be 1 day a week.
Fine, I just want to know if he got paid for it. That's what he's...
Yes,
we
he did.
can't do May something. How much did you pay him?
It would depend on how much he worked. One day I gave him $300 for helping me for a day and a half on another demolition job I did.
And you paid him in cash?
Correct.
Okay.
That was for the demolition job. That wasn't for the farm.
It doesn't make any difference, sir. If you have a full-time job and you're working part-time someplace else and you say he paid you...
He did not pay me.
Well, you say he didn't pay you for the farm. What he's saying is he had a job with me. He was a demolition job for which he got paid, which you do not deny. Is that right?
I'm not.
You just said that's not what I asked you. He paid you for the job that you did part-time for him
Yes,
in
he paid me for
demolition.
that job, yes.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
And what you're suing him for is allegedly money that he owes you for working on the farm during a period that does include March when you were working full-time someplace else.
Correct.
And working for him.
Yes.
And doing this work at the site in March, the first 2 weeks in March, because you got some money for that.
Correct.
So now you have, according to you, 3 jobs. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
First of all, you had no fixed financial arrangement with him at the farm.
Correct. He said he'd pay me what he can.
That is not a contract. Okay, but let's move forward with that. Tell me what your chores were at the farm.
I would go feed them hay.
Just feed who hay?
The cows.
Okay, how many cows do you have?
130.
Anybody else work on the farm or just him?
Just me mainly, and he would help when I was gone.
Okay, and in order to keep these animals alive, they have to be fed hay.
Correct.
For how many months did you feed them hay?
3.
Once a day?
Yes.
And what time would you do this?
Usually in the morning.
Before you went to work?
Yes.
That had to be 5 o'clock in the morning. You went to work at 6 o'clock. You had a shift, according to you, from 6 to 6.
Yes.
Okay, so how long did this take you in the morning when you had a full-time job?
Sometimes.
Not sometimes. I want you to tell me how long it took you.
Average about an hour and a half a day.
So let's say it took you an hour a day. And how many days did you do it?
I was with him every day before I got the job. I would go with him every day.
I don't care.
Okay.
For the 3 months, I'm asking you how many days you did it.
45.
That be right? In the 3 months, maybe 45 days? How many days did he put out hay?
If Trevor fed the cattle 12 days the whole time by himself, I'd be surprised.
And I helped him because I was there.
You did not help me when
Just
he was
a second.
gone.
Yes.
You helped him with the bales of hay?
Yes, I helped him because we also had another hired hand that would help me too, so I was rotating between both of them.
Okay, so let's say he worked 20 hours. Did you pay him any extra money for this work?
No, not for feeding cattle.
Not feeding cattle. And you didn't have any arrangement with him whereby he would work on the farm and he would get something off his rent?
No.
Okay, so he has to be paid for that. Sarah Rose, would you look up and see if there's a minimum wage in Michigan? What's the federal minimum wage? I don't know anymore.
$15.
So the minimum wage is now $15 an hour. That's federal.
Yes, ma'am.
15 times 20.
$300.
Okay, so, Mr. Snyder, let's start with you. You are going to get your phone back within 5 days. On your cross-claim against Mr. Snyder, I am awarding you $300 on your counterclaim. That is for the work that you did on the farm. However, we are holding that check until he gets his phone back in good condition.
Yes.
Do you understand? Otherwise, you forfeit that money.
Yes, ma'am.
To him. Do you understand?
Yes.
With regard to the co-plaintiff, I find that you did, in fact, take a loan from her, that you initially did it through a third party, but that you ratified the fact that you would make payments on the loan by 2 things. First, by acknowledging it in writing, and second, by making a payment. So I'm awarding you $600 on your claim. Those are the orders of the court. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think they're scam artists.
We came here to try to teach him a lesson that when he enters into contract with somebody, the contract is a contract.
They're greedy. They want money. They need money.
For being greedy, we did a lot to help this guy out.
By doing pretty much anything they ask.
Well, we've decided we're not helping people out anymore. They're on their own.
It's funny because if he didn't send those text messages ratifying the contract that someone else had made on his behalf, he could have gotten away without any responsibility. But when someone makes an agreement on your behalf and you then later either pay for it or admit responsibility that you know you owe it, then you've ratified it and you're held to that, even if you didn't make the initial agreement.
See, and then the right thing happened.
Yeah, it
And
did.
the right thing happened.
It did.
So that's good. That's
Taking
all good.
accountability.
Yeah.
Want justice? Go to Judy Justice.
क्या हाथ पांव वाइट नहीं होते? बहुत कुछ अप्लाई कर लिया भाई, हाथ पांव वाइट नहीं हो रहे। ऐसी की तैसी भाई हाथ पांव वाइट हो जाएंगे, क्यों नहीं होंगे? ले आओ भी, अभी एक लेमन लेकर आओ, है घर में लेमन, ले आओ, उठा के ले आओ। मैं आपको बता देती हूँ कैसे आप एक लेमन का इस्तेमाल करके अपने हाथों पाँव को फौरी तौर पे वाइट कर सकते हैं। आप जानते होंगे कि लेमन जो है वो आपके स्किन को ब्लीचिंग करता है। जिनको लेमन सूट नहीं करता वो फेस पे बिल्कुल भी ना यूज किया करें, क्योंकि अक्सर मेरी प्यारी बहनें फेस पे लेमन यूज कर जाती हैं, जिसकी वजह से उनके फेस पे पिंपल्स आ जाते हैं, एक्नी आ जाती हैं, या फिर रैशेस हो जाते हैं, स्किन रेड हो जाती। तो आप मत यूज किया करें मेरी प्यारी बहनों, और ब्लीच से तो हमेशा दूर रहा करें। अक्सर मेरी प्यारी बहनें कहती है दफा करो जी हर रेमेडी को, ये तो बहुत स्लो डाउन रिजल्ट दे रही है भाई, ब्लीच हमें फौरन रिजल्ट देगी, आ जाओ भाई ब्लीच ले आते हैं, फलां ब्लीच ले आओ, फलां ले आओ, उसका रिजल्ट बड़ा अच्छा, वो ले आओ भी, यूज कर लेते हैं, उससे हमें फौरी रिजल्ट मिल जाएगा। तो मेरी प्यारी बहनों बिल्कुल भी ऐसा ना किया करें, अपनी स्किन के साथ ना खेला करो, क्योंकि आप लोग जानते हैं कि आपकी स्किन आप लोगों के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो मेरी प्यारी बहनों अपनी केयर करें, अपनी स्किन की केयर करें, अपना ख्याल रखा करें। तो मैं आपको बहुत अच्छी पावरफुल रेमेडी बताने वाली हूँ, जिसका आपके साथ मैं लाइव रिजल्ट भी शेयर करने वाली हूँ। सबसे पहले जी मुझे क्या चाहिए होगा, फेयर एंड लवली क्रीम। फेयर एंड लवली या तिब्बत, ये दो ऑप्शन है आप लोगों के लिए, वो लेनी है आपने। मैं यहाँ पे फेयर एंड लवली लेकर आती हूँ। फेयर एंड लवली क्रीम आप लें, हैंड पे लगा लें, ठीक है। यूँ करके आप हैंड पे इसको अच्छी तरह से पूरे हाथ के ऊपर लेप कर लेनी है, जैसे कि मैंने कर लिया है। आप लोग भी कर लें, मेरे साथ साथ आप लोग भी कर लें। ये तो आपके घर में होगा ही, इजी हर घर में होता है, ठीक है। एक काला एक गोरा, ठीक है। ये देखो मैंने इसके हैंड पे अपने अप्लाई कर लिया। सेकंड अब हमें चाहिए होगा एक लेमन और थोड़ी सी शुगर। ये रहा जी लेमन, हाफ कट करके आपने लेना, शुगर इसके साथ लगाई, ये देख लें इस तरीके से। और फिर क्या करना है आपने, यूँ, मैं तो इस तरीके से कर रही हूँ, इस तरीके से मेरी शुगर जो है ना वो नीचे गिर जाएगी। आपने बहुत अच्छे तरीके से नीचे रख के और फिर आपने यूज़ करना है, ताकि जो आपकी ये शुगर है ना वो वेस्ट ना हो। इसका बारीक पाउडर बना लेंगे तो बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट मिल जाएगा। जितनी भी आपकी स्किन की मैल कुचैल है ना, फौरी ये लेमन जो है ना ख़त्म कर देगा। आपकी स्किन को ब्लीचिंग करता है ये। फेस पे बिल्कुल मत यूज़ कीजिएगा इसको, आप हैंड पे यूज़ करें, अपने बाजुओं पे यूज़ करें, अपनी नेक पे यूज़ करें, अपने फिट पे यूज़ करें। बहुत सी कस्टमर को ना नेक का बहुत प्रॉब्लम होता है, नेक पे भी आप इसको यूज़ करें, इंशाल्लाह फौरी तौर पे आपको रिजल्ट मिलेगा। 10 मिनट तक आप जो है ना इसको इस तरीके से रब करवा लें। रब करवाने के बाद, जैसे विंटर सीजन है तो आप इसको नीम गर्म पानी के साथ वॉश करके थोड़ा सा आप लोशन वगैरह, मॉइस्चराइज़र, कोई भी क्रीम कुछ भी लगा सकते हैं। और जैसे ही ये गर्मियों का सीज़न है, गर्मी सर्दी हर मौसम में भाई आप यूज़ कर सकते हैं। बहुत लोग कहते हैं कि ये गर्मी की रेमेडी है, ये सर्दी की, ये भाई आप गर्मियों सर्दियों में कर सकते हैं। तो जैसे ही ये गर्मी आ जाए तो आपने जो ठंडा यख बर्फ़ वाला पानी, उसमें हैंड को आपने वॉश करना है, थोड़ी सी फिर तिब्बत क्रीम दोबारा से आपने लगा लेनी। इतना वाइट हो जाएगा ना आपका हैंड फिट, और इतनी सॉफ्ट हो जाएंगे ना, आप यकीन जाने बहुत प्यारे आपके हैंड हो जाएंगे। इस टाइम ये देखो मेरे हैंड, हाथ जो है ना ये वाला, अभी मैं इसके ऊपर रब कर रही हूँ, अच्छे तरीके से हैंड के साथ ही कर रही हूँ, तो बहुत सॉफ्ट हो गया है, बहुत प्यारा सा हो गया है। अगर आप लोगों की नकल्स बहुत ज़्यादा ब्लैक है तो इसके ऊपर आप ज़रा लेमन को ज़्यादा रब करें, तो इंशाल्लाह आपकी नकल्स भी जो है ना आपके हैंड्स के साथ मैच हो जाएंगे। हाथ पाँव आपके इतने वाइट हो जाएंगे कि चेहरे से भी ज़्यादा वाइट नज़र आएंगे। हर कोई देखने वाला पूछेगा कि आजकल हाथों पे क्या लगा रही हो भाई, हाथ तो बड़े वाइट कर लिए हैं। इंशाल्लाह आप किसी भी फंक्शन पे जाएंगे तो आपका चेहरा जो है वो तो बेस से ऑलरेडी वाइट होगा, लेकिन आपके हैंड जो है ना ज़्यादा वाइट, ज़्यादा सॉफ्ट, बिल्कुल यंग से दिखेंगे। भाई एक बार मेरे कहने पर ज़रूर इस्तेमाल कीजिएगा, इंशाल्लाह आपको इससे बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट मिलने वाला है। सो मेरी प्यारी बहनों एंड भाइयों, यही थी आज की मेरी छोटी सी अमेजिंग सी वीडियो। आई होप कि आपको वीडियो पसंद आई है। वीडियो पसंद आई वीडियो को लाइक करें, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें। मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में, तब तक के इजाज़त दीजिए, दुआ में याद रखिएगा। अल्लाह हाफिज़।